Jiang Fan faces the Giant Kings, but a betrayal within their ranks changes everything. The sole Giant King declares it's over, and the death exemption token is cast. Leave a like and subscribe to see who survives the fallout. He pursued Jiang Fan and the scouting team, as well as the young master of the Black Cloud Village. His invincible and powerful physique left an indelible, powerful impression. Seeing him again now still makes one's heart race. Zizizi, as soon as he landed, his skin was sizzling with corrosion, and the thick, straight black hair at the back of his head emitted billows of black smoke. The stone Giant King didn't mind, but eagerly looked around. He glanced at the earth beneath his feet, looked at the sky of Central Earth, and then looked at the endless beautiful mountains and rivers outside the Forbidden Land. The enormous vertical eye trembled, uncontrollably showing excitement and thrill. I have finally arrived. The legendary Central Earth, the hunting holy land dreamed of by generations of giants. Ha 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 ha! The wanton laughter broke through the clouds, sweeping across the heavens and earth. When it reached the ears of all beings, it made their skin crawl. But the sacrifice of Wuya Venerable gave them the courage to continue. Heart Demon Venerable took a deep breath and shouted loudly, 10,000 Tribulations, Holy Temple, prepare for battle. The Bodhisattva clasped his hands together, his voice no longer magnetic and slow as before, becoming sharp and deep. All monks of White Horse Temple, eliminate the demons. Feng Yuan sect turned around, bowing to the people of the Great Yin sect. Dear fellow sect members, we shall meet in Yellow Springs. The 7 teachings of the 3 God sect and over 100 sects issued a powerful declaration of war. Countless voices gathered, breaking the clouds, raising endless smoke like dragons, dispersing and extinguishing the laughter of the Stone Giant King. The Stone Giant King stopped laughing and stared coldly at the crowd outside the Forbidden Land, sneering sinisterly. Pray that resists is more interesting. Several venerated ones were silent, watching the changes in his body with murderous intent. The Forbidden Land would corrode him and also root misfortune within him. If the Stone Giant King stays a while longer, he wouldn't need them to act. He would die in there. Hee. Noticing their gaze, the Stone Giant King chuckled. Isn't it just the Forbidden Land of the Misfortune Sage? It won't be able to stop me. The stars on his forehead rotated, and his dark golden skin quickly turned ashen gray. Even his eyes and hair transformed completely. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a stone man. The corrosion on his body surface gradually disappeared, and the invasion of misfortune rapidly weakened. Petrification is the source of the Stone Giant King. A petrified body, not only extremely powerful, but also able to resist external assaults on the body. He looked contemptuously at the crowd outside, then raised his head and shouted towards the connecting sky-black pillar. You can come down now? Thud! As the words fell, another giant 20 feet tall fell from the sky. There was a fiery red star at the center of his brow. His entire body looked like a dried-up paddy field, cracked beyond measure. And within the cracks, thick black smoke rolled over, and upon close inspection, dark red lava seemed to flash within. As he landed, he stirred up rolling heat waves that impacted in all directions. Jiang Fan's face darkened slightly. No doubt this was the Fire Giant King, and the fire origin is able to dispel the effects of the Forbidden Land. In other words, he can open a path temporarily for the descending ancient giants. Just like the Great Wine Sacrifice protected Jiang Fan's entry into the Forbidden Land. Thinking the Forbidden Land could once, and for all deal with the ancient giants, was indeed too simplistic. These giant kings were not only cunning, but also deeply understood Taikang state, possessing various formidable origins. Sure enough, the fire giant took a glance around and sneered contemptuously. Do you think you can escape us with just one Forbidden Land? Ha, naive. The fiery red star on his brow spun rapidly. A large amount of lava spewed from his body, burning down space wherever it passed. In the blink of an eye, a straight fire road formed from the center of the Forbidden Land stretching to the outside. Walking on the fiery path, one fears not the erosion of the Forbidden Land. The Fire Giant King looked up and said, Fire Combat Team, come down. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One after another, ancient giants ranging from 10 to a dozen feet tall jumped down along the connecting sky-black pillar. They had tusks curving backward, long vertical eyes and tongues, with ferocious and menacing faces. Each one could easily annihilate a medium-sized or small sect and devour a city of humans like bloodthirsty demons. The hunt begins. The Fire Giant King sneered menacingly, stepping boldly towards the east. The stone giant king glanced at Jiang Fan in the east, chuckling, "Leave that side to me. There's someone I want to kill personally." The fire giant king laughed. "Wang Chengxiao, is it? Sorry, he's mine." His vertical eye stared viciously at Jiang Fan, licking his lips. "He's someone the Black Sun King directly ordered to be killed first. His head is worth a fortune." After speaking, he led the fire combat team, charging like thunder outside the Forbidden Land. Heading straight for Jiang Fan, the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion Master beside Jiang Fan said in a deep voice, "He said your head is worth a lot. It seems you've made it onto the Heavenly Realm's must-kill list, and many ancient giants will be besieging you." Only then did Jiang Fan suddenly realize that both the Fire Giant King and Stone Giant King, as well as the 5-star Giant King and 3-star Giant King of the Great Wilderness State, were all speaking human tongue. Instead of the language of hell, during his last visit to the Heavenly Realm, they didn't know the human clan's language yet. There is only one explanation. During this time, someone had taught them the human clan's language of Central Earth, and in conjunction with their well-prepared strategies for the Forbidden Land where they descended. This explanation is more reasonable. Central Earth has a traitor among them, but there's no time to dwell on who the traitor is. He said in a deep voice, "Everyone on the Eastern Line, prepare for a fight to the death." Under the protection of the Fire Origin, the Fire Combat Team is in a full state. Each one is at the nascent Soul Middle Stage, or even Late Period level. Their numbers total 100, and their Eastern Line's most core defensive force is the Fire Worship Sect. There are only about 30 nascent Soul Middle Stage and above experts. Plus, there are 4 in the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion at the nascent Soul Middle Stage, less than 40 in total. As for the nascent Soul Initial Period, they have 100. Does such a force really have any chance against 100 Giant Kings in their prime? Moreover, there's also the Fire Giant King. Jiang Fan gritted his teeth and said, "Leave the Fire Giant King to me. As for the ancient giants, you're on your own." Everyone's hearts pounded wildly, each clutching their own magic artifacts or talismans, tightly gazing at the small mountain-like giants rushing out of the black mist. The black mist of the Forbidden Land heaved violently. The towering 20-foot-tall Fire Giant King was the first to step out of the Forbidden Land. That terrifying height, impossible to see the top of, exuded a savage and brutal aura, giving an imposing, chilling pressure. The Saiyan ancient giants rushing out behind him spread their bloody mouths wide, like beasts about to feast on blood meals. The Fire Giant King gave a playful smile and uttered a voice as sinister as from hell. "Feast freely. Don't be polite." He stared at Jiang Fan, his legs suddenly kicking, turning into a blur and disappearing. He didn't have the ability of instantaneous movement from the divinity transformation realm of Central Earth, but just with his powerful physique, he could achieve the effect of instantaneous movement. Jiang Fan's heart tightened, the wind origin already activated. However, what made his brow jump was that the Fire Giant King's target was not him, but instead Gu Zinner nearby. Giant King remembers her. In an instant, the Fire Giant King, with unparalleled momentum, charged to within 10 zhang of Gu Zinner. He didn't make a move, but the terrifying high temperature carried in the shockwave alone possessed the dreadful power to burn someone at the nascent Soul Realm's initial period. Beside Gu Zinner were people from the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion. This blow would annihilate not only Gu Zinner, but almost everyone in the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion. He struck so quickly that the people of the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion didn't even have time to disperse. At this critical moment, Xia Caoj secretly crushed a jade box and grasped an incredibly sacred white feather. However, she had yet to take action. The earth between the Fire Giant King and Gu Zinner began to wriggle without warning. Suddenly, a wall of earth 10 zhang high shot up. The scorching wind blew against the earth wall, quickly turning it red hot. Taking advantage of this, Gu Zinner and the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion members immediately dispersed. By the time the earth wall burnt into magma and exploded, everyone had retreated to a distance. "Oh, Earth Origin?" The Fire Giant King glanced sideways at Jiang Fan in the distance, chuckling. Jiang Fan said coldly, "If you want to kill me, come directly. No need for diversionary tactics. Otherwise, other Giant Kings might beat you to it." The Fire Giant King's target was still him. Attacking Gu Zinner was merely to lure Jiang Fan into aiding her, so he could seize the opportunity to kill in one swift move. Fortunately, Jiang Fan had recently comprehended the Earth Origin, which just happened to restrain the path of fire. With his plan uncovered, the Fire Giant's vertical eye squinted. He glanced sidelong at the stone giant king in the Forbidden Land, who was gathering his stone battle regiment. When they emerge, there's no guarantee they won't claim the heads on the eastern front. Wang Xiao is the giant emperor of the central tribe, personally naming the person to kill. Wang Xiao, in the heavenly tribulation of Hunyuan state, captured Princess Zaijiang, inciting the thunderous wrath of the giant emperor. For this, the Black Sun King was summoned to the central tribe. No one knows what the Black Sun King experienced in the central tribe, but upon returning, the first thing he said was, "Kill Wang Xiao, at all costs." This supreme merit, how could it be handed over to others? Since the plan had been exposed, the fire giant king no longer needed to conceal. His eyes flashed with cold light, transforming into a shadow hurling toward Jiang Fan. Before he arrived, the scorching high temperature that melted everything was already rushing in. Jiang Fan formed seals with his palms and shouted, "The four symbols together!" In an instant, the four symbols of heaven, earth, man, and God all emerged. The earth elephant great bell emitted a distant, deep chime, shaking the space around. Gray chains also entered the void, using the power of order to suppress all forces. A muffled hum resounded. The space trembled and the fire giant fell out of the void. Gray chains covered him, and a great bell rang above his head. The divine image and emperor image each swung 8 fists and the emperor's sword. Having no way to dodge, the fire giant king bore the force of fist and sword head-on. Whoosh! A series of sparks flew up as the emperor's sword cut across the fire giant king's body, leaving a long black scorch mark. The 8 fists striking him only made the fire giant king stagger back a few steps. The vertical eye of the fire giant king showed mockery. Not a bad cultivation technique, this blow already possesses the power of your human clan's physique at the Dharma image realm. But you forget, I'm a giant king. The path of physique, far superior to Middle Earth's beings of the same rank. Open! As his words fell, his entire body shook, scattering the illusion of gray chains on the surface. The great bell overhead also suddenly shattered. An ancient giant, known as the most perfect hunter. Not only is there strong immunity to the divine power treasure technique of Middle Earth, even his own physique far surpasses Middle Earth's beings. Is that so? Suddenly Jiang Fan's icy voice arrived. The fire giant king sensed something, and looking up, a sword array had unknowingly formed overhead. 3 top-grade spirit swords formed a 3-color divine rainbow, slashing down at lightning speed. When Jiang Fan makes a move, it's no less than a storm until the enemy is utterly destroyed. While briefly restraining the opponent, he had already activated the Dayan sword array. Now the sword array was set, making it unavoidable. The pupils of the fire giant king shrank. He felt the deadly threat of the 3-color divine rainbow and accurately judged he couldn't dodge this blow. But he didn't panic. Being a hunter, he had rich experience. Almost reflexively, he quickly activated the star he carried on his brow. Magma gushed within him, and he melted into a scattered magma field on the spot. This was similar to the Earth origin of the 3-star giant king of Great Wilderness State. The 3-colored divine rainbow slashed down, cutting through a stream of magma. The top-grade spirit sword, containing artifact spirit, enhanced in power considerably. Even the heavenly human 2 declines would retreat. Much less the heavenly person decline. This strand of magma from the fire giant king's body vaporized instantly. A miserable groan followed. The splattered magma quickly reformed into the fire giant king. Covering the right side of his face, blood sprayed and flowed from the ear area. Upon closer inspection, his ear had been cleaved off by a sharp blade. Although this strike didn't kill him, it indeed wounded him. "Damn bastard!" the fire giant king roared furiously. As the first giant king to go into battle from the Black Sun royal court, the first battle was injured by a nascent soul realm. Yet he didn't lose his mind. But casting a glance at the experts from the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion and the Fire Worship Sect, his foot stomped on the ground. "A bunch of ants, die already!" The ground suddenly cracked. Streams of magma from deep underground erupted without warning. The fire giant king could even trigger underground magma. Jiang Fan's expression finally changed a bit. Such a wide-range magma eruption meant the members of the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion couldn't all be safe. Fortunately, the Fire Worship Sect leader decisively issued orders. "Suppress the magma, protect those around us." The Fire Worship Sect specializes in the path of fire. This magma is harmful to ordinary people, but not to them. The members of the Fire Worship Sect cast strange fires, sealing the underground magma's eruption. These strange fires all originated from the innate fierce fire born from the fire springs of the fire worship sect. Extremely powerful, capable of burning everything. Ordinary magma could never breach the seal of strange fire. Only areas missed by the strange fire allowed a small amount of magma to erupt. Aside from 2 or 3 martial artists who got inadvertently sprayed and burned, everyone else remained unscathed. Jiang Fan slightly sighed in relief. He cast a grateful glance at the fire worship sect leader. But before he relaxed, a great sense of alarm surged in his heart. Focusing his gaze, the fire giant king's figure had disappeared. Under the perception of wind origin, its trajectory was already close at hand. The fire giant king created chaos to distract Jiang Fan, creating an opportunity for a surprise attack. In the next moment, a fierce giant hand, ablaze with terrifying flames, grasped at Jiang Fan. The fire giant king's face full of coldness showed. It's time to get going. Giant King hesitated not a bit. Even as he spoke, his 5 fingers suddenly exerted force. A squeeze from the Giant King could fatally wound even a divinity transformation realm expert, if not kill them outright, let alone an atorifious nascent soul. However, with all his strength, he found himself like a mortal trying to crush an iron rod. Not only did he fail to move Jiang Fan, his finger bones were almost painfully squeezed. Opening his palm to look, Jiang Fan was completely covered in black scales, indestructible. This was the black dragon armor extracted by the black dragon venerable. After being tempered by true spirit blood, it had returned to its peak state. Not to mention the 1-star Giant King, even the 4-star Giant King might not be able to break through the armor. The fire Giant King's heart skipped a beat. You were prepared in advance? This kind of body-embedded defensive armor cannot be released at a moment's notice. It requires some preparation time. Jiang Fan must have anticipated being attacked at close range. In other words, it wasn't that he caught Jiang Fan, but Jiang Fan caught him. Running out of tricks, are you? You who boasts to be the most perfect hunter. The same feigned attack tactic didn't fool him the first time, how could it the second? The fire Giant King was too confident in his strength. Jiang Fan's eyes were icy cold, and with a thought. The long-prepared 3-colored divine rainbow was suddenly enveloped by space power and struck into the fire Giant King's body. Not good. The fire Giant King's pupils constricted suddenly. The essence in his brow erupted fiercely, attempting to turn into magma again, replicating the previous approach. Heavenly phenomenon! Jiang Fan was ready, shouting as gray chains wound around the fire Giant King. The heavenly phenomenon in the Brahma Saint True Spirit technique symbolizes order, working to neutralize the enemy's power. This included their essence. Of course, it only lasts for a brief moment. But it was enough for the 3-colored divine rainbow to unleash its power, sure enough. The stars in his brow turned, suddenly stopping for half a breath. The fire Giant King's heart was in shock, his pupils shrinking to a needle's point. Half a breath is enough to decide life and death in a clash of strong beings. He didn't even have time to react, and with a puff, the 3-colored divine rainbow in his body erupted suddenly. Its blinding divine light pierced through the fire Giant King's body. A 3-color crack quickly spread from his abdomen to his heavenly spirit cover, like a 20-zhang tall stone statue being split apart. The stars in the fire Giant King's brow resumed turning, but after just a moment they halted abruptly. His eyes lost focus, murmuring, "How is this possible?" Crack. As the 3-color divine rainbow flew out of his body, the 3-color crack expanded rapidly. It split the fire Giant King in half. However, inside his split body, a stomach pouch was revealed, containing a human clan's jade bottle. In the bottle were 10 spirit pills, and that Jiang Fan was all too familiar with. It was the spiritual healing elixir unique to the human clan, the heavenly clothes divine water. Pop, pop, pop. The jade bottle exploded, and the 10 healing elixirs burst one after another, transforming into green liquid that sprayed around. The already split fire Giant King astonishingly healed within the blink of an eye. Jiang Fan's pupils contracted in shock. How could the ancient giants possess the heavenly clothes divine water? For the human clan, obtaining even one was as hard as ascending to heaven. Where did the ancient giants get theirs? But there was no time to think. It was hard enough to design a trap to kill a Giant King. How could he let him escape? Jiang Fan pulled out an anti-void spirit pill and stuffed it into his mouth, swallowing it. After using the Dayan sword array twice, his spiritual power was nearly exhausted. Before his energy could recover, he initiated the sword array again. The three-color divine rainbow cut down again with a tearing sound. At this point, the fire giant king hadn't fully healed, his body stiff and unable to move. Seeing the approaching three-color divine rainbow, he let out a terrified scream. "Save me!" Clang, a shower of sparks flared up. Something actually blocked the strike of the three-color divine rainbow. Jiang Fan's pupils narrowed, and when he looked closely, he saw a golden hand shielding the fire giant king's head, stopping the three-color divine rainbow. The all-cutting three-color divine rainbow left a shallow white mark on its back, and the three-color divine rainbow was deflected, losing its formation. The owner of the arm was a giant 20 zhang tall. There was a golden star on his brow, spinning rapidly. Another giant king appeared, and this time it was the indestructible golden giant king. The so-called gold medal. Divine weapons are mere toys in his presence. The golden giant king stared coldly at Jiang Fan. "So this is how a human clan little wretch looks like." When Jiang Fan once caused havoc in the Black Sun royal court, he was ordered to guard the blood pool and never saw Jiang Fan in person. But his name was well known to the golden giant king. Jiang Fan glanced at the depths of the forbidden land. Beneath the connecting sky-black pillar, the stone giant king had already led his stone battle corps charging towards the western front. The golden giant king, leading the golden battle corps, was charging eastward, following the fire path left by the fire giant king. If they broke free, it would mean that the great Yin sect and the heavenly mechanism pavilion, with their mere 30-some nascent soul middle stage experts, would face over 200 ancient giants. Simultaneously, they would face two giant kings. They would be doomed. And during this protective gap, the body of the fire giant king healed once more. His golden face turned slightly pale, with a trace of post-disaster survival evident. This was the first time since becoming a giant king that he had been so close to death. As he looked back at Jiang Fan, there was no longer any disdain. Only insurmountable apprehension remained. He knew Jiang Fan was troublesome. Otherwise, he couldn't have kidnapped Princess Zaijiang, nor could he have rescued Xingyuan Venerable from Wu Gu and a 5-star giant king. But he didn't expect Jiang Fan to be this terrifying. In just a few exchanges, he could be cut under his blade. Even with the golden giant king's assistance, he felt no sense of security. Looking at the fire battle corps waiting for his command at the edge of the forbidden land, he roared. "You worthless bunch, what are you standing around for? Kill! Kill everyone on the eastern line of the human clan, leave no one behind." As long as the eastern line is in chaos, the human clan Jiang Fan protects will face a life-and-death crisis, forcing him to divide his attention. And for an expert, division of attention is the path to death. Moreover, the ancient giants of the Golden Battle Corps were about to reach the battlefield. Once they join in, the few people on the eastern line will just be lambs to be slaughtered. The Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion Master glanced with a serious look. He too realized how dire the situation was. The Fire Giant King's fire path had erased the huge advantage they previously held, transforming this into a contest of numbers. But their numbers were nothing against the ancient giants. However, at this point, there was no room for retreat. He looked far at Jiang Fan, facing two giant kings alone, his eyes full of thunder light, shouting, "We must not hold Jiang Fan back. Those at nascent soul middle stage and above, follow me into the fray. Nascent soul early stage, hold the line, seize the chance to wield the machinery. We'll either meet at the victory celebration or at Yellow Springs." With that, he led by example, charging towards the massive approaching mountain-like ancient giant horde. Pavilion, how could Fairy Yunsheng not participate? She gazed deeply at Jiang Fan, murmuring, "Jiang, take care." With that, she decisively entered the fray. Slave Heart Demon Emperor also glanced at Jiang Fan, eyes filled with blessings. "Master, I won't hold you back." With that, he too dove into the front lines. A sigh echoed in Gu Zinner's heart. 1,000 years later, I can still battle the ancient giants. Let the regrets of the past be remedied in this lifetime. Xingxin, go ahead and strike, I'm here for everything. Then Xia Keoj, Liu Qingxian, Hua Wying, and Yi Bangxia, four apertures nascent souls, also decisively pressed forward. Bai Luo gazing at the grand advancing ancient giants sighed. "Jiang Fan has helped our family so much, it's time we repay him." Beside him, Yellow Springs nodded deeply. The two joined forces and dove into the front line. Thus, the 8 nascent soul middle stage and above masters from Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion, along with Bai Luo and Yellow Springs, 2 late-stage nascent souls, all joined in. Seeing this, the strongmen of the great Yin sect also refused to be outdone. Could the three-god sect possibly be beneath the newly established heavenly mechanism pavilion? All nascent soul middle stage and above, follow me into the fray. Kill. As the two great forces clashed, the nascent soul middle period masters from other sects on the eastern line also mustered the courage to catch up. With a battle power of over 40 from the front facing over 100 ancient giants. Given the formidable strength of the ancient giants, this was practically a one-sided slaughter. Soon, both sides lined up side by side, sweeping across the earth of Taikang State like two dragons. And within a few brief moments, they collided. The heavenly mechanism pavilion master's eyes were filled with killing intent. Usually elegant, his eyes were now filled with a madness willing to die. He recalled the old pavilion master's dying entrustment. He recalled the heavenly mechanism pavilion's thousand-year mission to deal with the catastrophe of the ancient giants. He recalled the regretful demise and disappointed departure of generations of disciples over the 1,000 years. The hatred in his heart burned to the extreme. The heavenly mechanism pavilion, a sect established to create a path of hope for the future generations. As the current pavilion master, his mission had arrived. Heavenly mechanism pavilion master Yun Tianzhu is here. Today, it's either your death or mine. The ancient giants couldn't understand the human clan's language like the giant king. But the heavenly mechanism pavilion master leading the charge shouted passionately, catching the attention of a Tenjiang high, newly matured ancient giant. He felt Yun Tianzhu's immense lifeblood and revealed his greed. Opening his mouth, he shot out a long tongue, sweeping toward the pavilion master with thunderbolt force. The heavenly mechanism pavilion master's entire body surged with a manic fighting spirit, eyes exploding with thunderbolt. Two beams of thunder light hit the tongue precisely. A sizzling sound. The tongue was instantly severed and melted. The ancient giant let out a painful roar, but his hostility only increased, roaring and charging forward. The powerful physique gripping the heart, Yun Tianzhu's eyes again sprayed thunder light. Yet this time, when it hit the chest of the ancient giant, it only scorched the skin and flesh. The ancient giants had strong immunity to the human clan's divine power treasure techniques. Apart from vulnerable areas like the tongue, other parts are hard to be effectively harmed by those of the same rank from the human clan. The ancient giant took the opportunity to close in, his massive palm slapping fiercely toward Yun Tianzhu. The air emitted a piercing whistle. Yun Tianzhu's body couldn't possibly bear this strike. He would be smashed into powder on the spot. But Yun Tianzhu had no intention of retreating, raising his palm. A pitch-black, ink-like black blade appeared in his hand. It was the blade that attacked the soul. The ancient giants could be immune to other things, but soul attacks were their weakest point. Sizzle, Yun Tianzhu faced the giant's palm and fiercely swung down. The black blade seemed transparent, silently cutting through the ancient giant's palm without inflicting any bodily harm. Yet the ancient giant suddenly held his head, letting out an exceedingly pitiful scream. The immense body fell to the ground, twisting painfully. In the blink of an eye, it ceased moving. His soul was destroyed and died. Yun Tianzhu trembled with excitement, his grip on the black knife unsteady, and excitement surged in his eyes. He killed an ancient giant. He personally slaughtered a heavenly realm demon monster that had haunted the heavenly mechanism pavilion for 1,000 years. This thrilling sensation lingered, refusing to calm. Suddenly, a furious roar erupted from the ancient giant. A massive ancient giant, over 10 zhang tall, with golden spots all over its body, glared angrily. It was the 9-aperture giant. He sensed the threat of Yun Tianzhu's black knife to the ancient giant. He decisively emitted a long tongue, transforming into an elusive shadow aimed at killing. Yun Tianzhu's expression changed, hurriedly dodging. But that was a blow from the 9-aperture giant. How could he, a 5-aperture's nascent soul, resist? When he realized, a crimson long tongue was already close. His mind briefly blanked. However, in the next moment, Yin Qi appeared before him, and a yin corpse materialized without warning. The tongue that was supposed to curl him up instead wrapped around the yin corpse. A chewing noise echoed instantly. As he focused his gaze, the 9-aperture giant had already drawn the yin corpse into its mouth, chewing heartily. Yun Tianzhu broke out in a cold sweat. The chewed one was supposed to be him. Heavenly mechanism pavilion master, be careful. Elder Chen of the Great Yin sect appeared beside him, with one of the corpse bags at his waist emptied. It was he who intervened just now, helping Yun Tianzhu escape a calamity. The pavilion master was immensely grateful. Thank you, Elder Chen, for the rescue. While undoing the corpse bag at his waist, Elder Chen said sternly, "Stay close to me." He summoned 3 late-stage nascent soul yin corpses, guarding the 3 in front. By then, the ancient giants and the Eastern army had fully engaged. Various sounds of divine power treasure techniques exploded in his ears, scattering dazzling collision spots, along with the human clan's furious roars and the ancient giant's brutal screeches. Yun Tianzhu couldn't distinguish his own people. He had no time to care. The scene was already a mess. Under the shelter of 3 yin corpses, he rushed into the depths of the battle formation. He found that although the ancient giants were incredibly powerful, in the chaos of battle, due to their tall stature, they needed to bow their heads to search for humans. Yet since they were grouped together, sometimes they collided with their own people. This gave the relatively smaller human clan a chance to dodge nimbly. At this moment, 2 ancient giants staggered and collided back to back, their bodies becoming stiff. Yun Tianzhu's eyes flashed brilliantly. After dodging a giant foot stomp, he decisively rushed forward, swinging his knife to cut the leg of an ancient giant. Roar! The ancient giant collapsed, and its soul quickly shattered. He successfully slew another 10-jang-tall ancient giant. "Pavilion Master, quickly lend me a hand." Amidst the chaotic noise, Elder Chen's urgent voice suddenly came. Yun Tianzhu glanced sideways to see the 3 yin corpses had successfully entangled a massive giant, over 10 jang tall, with strength reaching a Torifus nascent soul. Its hand crushed a human clan expert, ready to stuff it into its mouth. Yet at this moment the 3 yin corpses suppressed it, making its legs immovable. Yun Tianzhu's eyes gleamed coldly. With a swift move, he arrived at its feet, decisively striking the top of its foot. In the next moment, the Atorifus nascent soul giant clutched its head and roared in agony, but this alone wasn't enough to kill it. The 3 yin corpses needed to end its life, seized the chance to finish him, but suddenly the 3 yin corpses froze. Yun Tianzhu was taken aback, turning to see his pupils constricting. A crimson long tongue pierced through his skull. Following the long tongue's direction, it was astonishingly the 9-aperture giant. He looked with amusement, and with a twitch of the tongue, he dragged Elder Chen back into his mouth, chewing contentedly. "Elder Chen," Yun Tianzhu screamed in agony. A moment ago, a fighting companion now turned into the ancient giant's food, and this was only one scene in the battle formation. From afar, Jiang Fan noticed this scene. His eyes also filled with rage. Sect simply couldn't hold on for long. Thinking about all those familiar faces that were about to fall, his heart was in chaos. Boom! Suddenly, a sound like a mountain collapsing and earth-shattering exploded beside his ear. A fist the size of a house, in a yellowish-brown hue, slammed hard into his body. Even with the black dragon armor on him, that terrifying power that could crack rocks and pierce gold still penetrated the armor's defense. Jiang Fan felt as if he were hit by a collapsing mountain and was sent flying on the spot. His internal organs shook violently, and a mouthful of metallic-tasting blood couldn't be restrained, shooting out of his mouth like an arrow. The figure of the Golden Giant King appeared, coldly saying, "Facing 2 giant kings and you still dare to be distracted." Jiang Fan clutched his chest, his body seemingly about to tear apart. He knew he couldn't afford to be distracted, but how could he manage that? Every fall of an ally from the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion was an unbearable weight for him. "Jiang Fan, don't worry about us?" An urgent and charming voice came, and he glanced sideways. It was Fairy Yunshang. She had already delved deep into the ancient giants. The white-as-snow dress she should be wearing was stained with a large patch of glaring red on her chest. 9 long fox tails had already been broken, with 2 missing, and blood continually gushed from the break. She was injured. Also, she was under siege from 2 giants over a dozen feet tall, her situation critically dangerous. She was barely managing to defend herself, but couldn't help getting distracted, seeing Jiang Fan injured. And it was this distraction. A giant foot swept over with a series of residual shadows. Fairy Yunshang hurriedly covered herself with her remaining 7 tails, but with one kick, she was struck away just like Jiang Fan. In an instant, blood gushed from her mouth and all her tails broke. Her delicate and slender body, like a blood-colored butterfly, flew backward, crashing heavily into the chaotic battlefield center, disappearing into the dust stirred up by the trampling of the giants. "Yunshang!" Jiang Fan's heart was torn apart. What made him even more furious was the Fire Giant King, realizing Yunshang's importance to Jiang Fan, shouted grimly, "Kill that woman in white!" The 2 giants who had been besieging Fairy Yunshang charged toward the place where she fell like thunder. In her current state, how could she withstand the combined assault of two giants? Jiang Fan's expression drastically changed, and he activated the space origin, rushing towards Fairy Yunshang. But as soon as he moved, a fountain of magma shot up from the ground, 100 feet high, shaking and rolling the space with its heat. Jiang Fan fell from it. He glared at the Fire Giant King with eyes like flaming fire. "Get lost!" The Fire Giant King revealed a sinister look. "Ever seen a living person chewed up in a mouth? They make delightful screams, struggling and wriggling. The taste of wantonly devouring them is the best in the world, and you will have the honor to see it." As he spoke, the two giants had already reached the place where Fairy Yunshang had fallen and had found her severely injured. One giant excitedly bent down and grabbed at her. Whoosh! Bang! A dull and ferocious wind-breaking sound exploded sharply. Then the bending giant was sent flying backward. To be seen was a 3-jang-long, completely black giant crossbow arrow piercing through his skull, out through his back and protruding from his rear. The overwhelming strength of the crossbow had blasted him 100 feet away, crashing heavily to the ground, dead on the spot, without so much as a scream, and outside the battle formation in midair. Liang Feiyin stood on a giant bed crossbow, roaring fiercely, "Cannibal beast! Let you taste what it's like to be skewered like our ancestors." In this critical moment, it was Liang Feiyin who resolutely activated her mechanism. And while that giant bent down, she delivered the precise, fatal blow. The other giant, seeing his companion slain, let out an enraged roar. He raised his foot to stomp fiercely toward the prone Fairy Yunshang, venting his anger. Whoosh! Another terrifying crossbow arrow came shooting in. It was Ren Guheng, imitating the action, launching another giant crossbow arrow. The 3-jang-long arrow, with a terrifying whistling sound, came rushing in. But this giant was on guard. He twisted his massive body flexibly, and the arrow just grazed past his waist, merely scratching his skin, not damaging any vital parts. He cast a contemptuous glance, looking back at the severely injured Fairy Yunshang, cruelly stomping down. Yet the previously vanished arrow whistling unexpectedly came back again. Before he could react, a tearing pain appeared from his side. He turned his head to see. An arrow pierced from the side, through his ribs, shattering his internal organs all the way through and out the other side. He was in disbelief, looking towards the source of the arrow. On the side battlefield, there was a white cloud. In the cloud, a cold, 10-jang giant bed crossbow floated within. On the bed crossbow stood a little spirit beast, covered in blue scales, with 2 whiskers at the corners of its mouth and wearing a diaper. With arms crossed over its chest, chin held high, proudly saying, "Weren't you good at twisting? Keep twisting, then?" The giant's eyes bulged, pointing at the little spirit beast as he trembled with anger before falling straight down. It turned out the rebellious guy, seeing Liang Feiyin take action, maneuvered around preparing to ambush a giant. Just as Ren Guheng's attack failed, it swiftly supplemented with another arrow. Seeing this scene, Jiang Fan, whose heart had been torn several times, finally felt slightly relieved. He looked gratefully at Liang Feiyin and the rebellious guy. These usually unreliable duos surprisingly achieved something crucial at a critical moment. The Fire Giant King's face was grim, roaring. "Send part of the forces, kill those people at the back." Boom, boom, boom. Immediately, more than 10 ancient giants at the edge of the battlefield left the combat zone, striding towards the 300 mechanical battle groups at the back. Though they were numerous, they were all nascent soul early stage. In the eyes of the ancient giants, they were nothing but prey for wanton slaughter. Yunzi shouted, "Don't panic! Let the bed crossbows strike first." They had mechanisms capable of dealing massive damage to the ancient giants. And the 10-jang-long giant bed crossbows were sharp, long-range attack tools capable of inflicting lethal harm. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Instantly, more than 50 bed crossbows successively launched powerful and unparalleled arrows. With such dense arrows, even the flexibility of the ancient giants couldn't dodge them all. Thunk, thunk, thunk. Immediately, 3 ancient giants were pierced through on the spot. The few ancient giants behind, caught unprepared, were knocked over by their falling comrades. Everyone was immensely encouraged. In their nascent soul middle-late stage till now, they had barely slain less than 7 ancient giants, at the cost of sacrificing twice as many as the ancient giants. But these nascent soul early-stage comrades easily slew 3 giants using airstrikes. If this trend continued, by the time the giants reached the mechanical battle group, few would remain. Truly fitting equipment for countering ancient giants, the power is indeed astounding. When deployed to our battlefield later, it would yield great results. Aside from great wine sacrifices foresight, we should also thank Jiang Fan, who shook all the weapons from the Black Sun tribe. The giant's wolf fang clubs are their unmatched weapons. If they had them, these mechanisms might not harm them so easily. The fire giant's heart bled, for these belonged entirely to his battle group. After the great battle commenced, the human clan had not slain many, yet he had already sacrificed 10 of his own. A fierce glint flashed in his eyes as he shouted, "No need to conceal it any longer. Bring out your weapons." Turn with this command. The ancient giants in battle let out roars like mountain cries and sea cries. It seemed as if they had been suppressed for a long time, thoroughly aggrieved. Whether it was the anxious ancient giants in the battle formations, or the dozen or so ancient giants attacking the rear of the battle group. They all simultaneously drew from their waist pouches 5 Zhanglong wolf fang clubs covered in spikes. Jiang Fan's pupils contracted. How can this be? The 1,000+ wolf fang clubs of the Black Sun royal court, as well as various weapons, he had already shaken down through the connecting sky black pillar. Those wolf fang clubs were distributed to True Word Venerable and Purple Cloud Venerable of Hunyuan State. How could they reappear in the hands of the ancient giants? Could it be that the Black Sun royal court dispatched them from elsewhere? Jiang Fan had personally witnessed the battlefield left underground in the extreme west of the mainland Demon Clan, where an ancient giant wielded a wolf fang club and fought a group of nascent soul experts. Countless spiritual artifacts were smashed to pieces. It also caused the surrounding mountains and rivers to shatter and spirit veins to shift horizontally. Immeasurable power. The ancient giants in front of them, once again wielding wolf fang clubs, saw their combat power soar anew. Screams immediately followed. It was an elderly member of the fire worship sect's 6th stage nascent soul, struck by a wolf fang club which shattered his body. Subsequently, more screams followed. Sounds of grief and indignation, roars of anger, and the sinister laughter of the ancient giants mixed together, making one feel hopeless. With just the initial appearance of the wolf fang clubs, the front battle situation underwent a major shift. The one-sided human clan nascent soul experts saw their casualties surge dramatically, and the rear battle group was also on the brink of collapse. Liang Feiyan's heart was pounding. She quickly mounted the last remaining crossbow arrow and urgently shouted, "Fire now!" Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Even denser than before, crossbow arrows poured down like a torrential rain. But the ancient giants who should have been cautious, with the wolf fang clubs in their grasp, all had ferocious expressions. Holding the heavy wolf fang clubs, it was as if holding a stick of wood effortlessly. The wolf fang clubs in their hands swung easily, precisely batting away the incoming crossbow arrows. Some crossbow arrows were deflected off course, some were directly smashed to pieces. "Humans, you must all die!" A dozen ancient giants, braving the dense crossbow arrows, thundered forth. The short 10,000 jang distance was only a matter of dozens of breaths for the ancient giants. During this time, apart from 3 ancient giants hit in the leg or foot, unable to move. The remaining 10 all reached the front. An angry giant with an arrow in his arm lifted his wolf fang club high and slammed it down at the road ballistae. Clang! Several ballistae shattered, metallic debris exploding in all directions. In an instant, cries filled the air. Several early-stage nascent soul experts were injured, some even pierced in vital spots, dying miserably on the spot. The other giants rushed into the battle group, destroying ballistae, causing mass casualties. In just one encounter, dozens were injured or killed. Yu Yunzi shouted, "Clearing the front!" Upon hearing this, the front crowd quickly dispersed, and he threw out a huge iron ball as tall as a person. The iron ball, covered in barbs, activated upon landing, rolling rapidly along the ground. A giant raising his wolf fang club changed facial expressions, smashing toward the iron ball. But the spikes on the iron ball brushed aside the wolf fang club, rolling swiftly to the giant's legs. With the strong impact force, the dense, arm-length spikes of the iron ball impaled the opponent's legs, piercing through flesh, penetrating bone. Both legs were pierced like a sieve. Even with the giant's immense strength, it let out a howl, collapsing to the ground, losing mobility. This invigorated everyone, and the strong wielders of iron balls all threw them out. Unfortunately, it had lost its element of surprise. The giants, cunning as ever, noticed the sudden retreat of the human clan experts and cleverly dodged away. One by one, the iron balls missed their marks. Worse yet, the opened passage from everyone's retreat became a path for the giants to penetrate deeper into the battle group. With a few dull thuds, The remaining 9 giants charged into the densely packed stronghold of experts along the gaps. With their wolf fang clubs sweeping in a circle, they swung out a ring of blood flowers. In a matter of breaths, dozens were wounded or killed. Coupled with the earlier impact, the rear battle group of over 300 saw their numbers reduced by a whole third. Both the front and rear battle groups were pushed to the brink of extermination, even more so for the rear. The 9 ancient giants were practically in an unchallenged territory, slaughtering everyone. Yunzi, overwhelmed by grief and anger, launched a cultivation technique across the space. But landing on a giant, it was like scratching an itch, leaving no marks and even drawing the giant's attention. The Wolf Fang Club once aimed forward was now swung towards Yunzi. This swing, as fast as a fleeting shadow, was unavoidable. Seeing as he was about to be killed at the critical moment, a tender shout came, "Don't harm my master!" From the flank, a bronze war chariot rushed in with long blades on its wings. Nangong Xiaoyan, driving the bronze war chariot, charged in swiftly, taking advantage of the giant swinging the club elsewhere, driving through its legs. Thud! The sharp blades cut into the leg. With the powerful impact of the bronze war chariot, the blades sliced through the giant's rock-hard bone. As blood sprayed, the giant's legs were severed together. Amidst its wailing, the giant toppled down. Yunzi thus escaped disaster, his eyes brightening. He hurriedly shouted, "Deploy the war chariots!" The equipped strong fighters fumbled to activate the bronze war chariots, weaving through the battlefield. In the confusion, another giant had its leg chopped off, crashing down. But the good times didn't last long. The giants, sensing the threat of the bronze war chariots, abandoned slaughtering ordinary nascent soul realm individuals, specifically targeting the bronze war chariots. A disciple of the fire worship sect, driving a bronze chariot, searching for targets. Suddenly, darkness loomed overhead. Before he could react, the giant Wolf Fang Club crushed both him and his chariot. Nangong Xiaoyan, realizing the threat, immediately abandoned the chariot and fled. But as soon as she escaped the bronze chariot, darkness enveloped overhead. A giant targeted her, swinging a furious club at her. Nangong Xiaoyan's heart skipped a beat, her mind went blank, faintly hearing Yunzi's distant exclamation. But it was too late, only one thought in her mind. "Am I going to die?" At this critical juncture, thud, a muffled sound. Then a large gush of blood like a torrential downpour drenched her. She looked up to see a crossbow arrow piercing through the giant's heart from behind. Who shot it? No, it wasn't just one crossbow arrow. There were several. From their western flank, crossbow arrows whizzed through the air, aiming madly at the remaining 6 giants. The marauding giants hastily used their wolf fang clubs to fend off the sudden crossbow arrows. This gave the battle group on the brink of extinction a moment to catch their breath. They glanced sideways. They discovered that it was the defending strong fighters from the South Line, Sanking Mountain, White Horse Temple, and the Jiang family all pressing over. The late-stage nascent souls rushed to the main battlefield, while the early-stage nascent souls charged to this place. The unexpected reinforcements greatly buoyed everyone's spirits. Yunzi scanned left and right, finding an abandoned bronze war chariot, immediately jumped on, driving the chariot at the giants. Seeing this, the others eagerly picked up their weapons, coordinating with the reinforcements' attack for a counteroffensive. The remaining 6 giants had to guard against the far attack while watching their steps for close attacks. What was once a one-sided slaughter turned into a situation of attack from inside and out. Roar, in just a few moments, one giant's leg was severed. As he fell, several iron balls sped over his body, piercing him into a porcupine. The 5 giants panicked, trying to break free from the crowd to avoid being flanked. "Get lost, insects!" The giants desperately stomped on the incoming bronze war chariot, using their tongues to whisk away attacking humans, smashing men and women with wolf fang clubs. Blood and brain matter splattered, severed limbs and broken remains flew. The earth became a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. The sky turned red with blood mist. Yet, as one wave of humans died, another surged forward. They fought with bloodlust. Even if crushed to death or smashed by wolf fang clubs, they'd stop at nothing to strike a blow against the giants. Having witnessed the tragic deaths of their comrades, no one feared the giants anymore. They had only one thought, and that was to kill them, kill them. At this moment, the humans erupted with a fearless momentum, sending chills down the spines of the remaining 5 giants. This was a madness they had never felt from the Asura clan. They grew more terrified, their strikes fiercer. but under the attacks where humans sacrificed their lives with the firepower support of reinforcements. The 5 giants wailed as they were knocked to the ground. What awaited them was an angry mob of humans wanting to eat their flesh and drink their blood. Main battlefield. The nascent Seoul middle-late stage battle group, equally on the brink of collapse, received aid from the powerhouses of Sanking Mountain and White Horse Temple, easing their burden. They began a counterattack. Even the severely injured fairy Yunshang, after swallowing a heavenly clothes divine water, recovered most of her injuries. Gritting her silver teeth, she rejoined the battle formation. The giants, facing annihilation, had their offensive disrupted and grew flustered. Meanwhile, the rear ranks were rapidly cleaning up equipment and gathering forces. Soon, they would join the southern reinforcements to support the main battlefield. Then the remaining 70-odd giants would be trapped in a desperate ambush. Jiang Fan breathed a sigh of relief. He glanced at the distant Great Wine sacrifice. The southern front line pressing forward must be under its command. With the battle just starting, Taikang State desperately needed a victorious beginning. The fire battle group breaching through the east line was the best target. If an entire troop of 100 could be wiped out, it would undoubtedly boost morale greatly and weaken the ancient giants' offensives. Yet the problem was the Golden Battle Group's troop of 100 emerged unharmed from the fire road. If they joined the main battlefield, the humans on the east line would face a one-sided slaughter again. Someone must stop them. But at this moment, the west line battle had also started, with the Stone Giant King leading a troop against the Great Yin sect and other sects. The 10,000 Tribulations Holy Temple, located in the north, was dispatched to intercept the Stone Giant King and his troop. Forces across all 4 lines were mobilized. No more troops were available. Only Bodhisattva, Evil Crow Venerable, and Jiang Wuya were left to move. The might of a venerate is enough to block a 100-member troop. His gaze swept the field but found no trace of Jiang Wuya. The battle was intensely fierce, yet his whereabouts were unknown. The closest to him was Jiang Wuya, who stood with arms crossed, observing the battlefield. He took in the situation more clearly than Jiang Fan, understanding the eastern line's predicament. Seeing Jiang Fan looking over, he knew Jiang Fan needed him to block the Golden Battle Group. A smirk curled his lips. "Kneel and beg me." Jiang Fan couldn't believe it. At this time was he still holding personal grudges. "Amitabha, this monk will go. Master Jiang, take care." Even Bodhisattva noticed the immense threat of the Golden Battle Group, transforming into a colossal Buddha shadow to face the 100-member troop. Relieved, Jiang Fan focused on dealing with the 2 giant kings before him. But at this moment, an unexpected change arose. In the Forbidden Land, a dull boom echoed again. Jiang Fan's heart sank as he stared. A 20-zhang tall giant marked with a black star on his forehead descended. Another giant king had emerged. He grinned, his enormous vertical eye locking onto Bodhisattva, playfully saying, "Your opponent is me." In an instant, he vanished. The colossal Buddha shadow of Bodhisattva eerily transformed into the figure of the giant king, enveloping Bodhisattva within. He could invade people's shadows. That must be the shadow giant king. Jiang Fan's expression drastically changed. No one left to intercept the Golden Battle Group. An Evil Crow Venerable still wore a mocking face, watching from the sidelines. Jiang Fan had no one to rely on. His heart burned with anxiety. At this point, he had only one option. That was to slay the Fire Giant King and Golden Giant King before the Golden Battle Group reached the main battlefield. Yet he had at most dozens of breaths. How was it possible to kill 2 giant kings simultaneously in such a brief time? The 2 giant kings had been nervously monitoring the battle. Realizing the advantage was theirs, they relaxed. Time was on their side. As long as they held Jiang Fan off, the nascent soul-level battle on the east line would end. Once the east line was torn open, they could gather remaining forces and assault the other 3 lines, with constant reinforcements arriving. Then the remaining 3 lines would collapse even faster. The defense of Taikang State would be crushed in this very battle. First battle is the decisive battle. This time, the ancient giants wouldn't experience a prolonged war lasting decades like 1,000 years ago. Both stared at Jiang Fan ahead, their eyes glinted with sinister light. The Fire Giant King acted first, his red star rotating in his forehead. Magma erupted from within, cloaking his exterior. Forming an even more towering magma giant, the scorching heat could incinerate everything. Whoosh! He vanished and reappeared with a fire-spewing fist hitting the spot where Jiang Fan stood. But Jiang Fan had sensed his trajectory with wind origin and dodged with spatial teleportation. Yet mid-teleportation, the terrifying fist of the Golden Giant King struck him. Smack! Jiang Fan fell out of teleportation, his armor quaking. He coughed up another mouthful of blood. These two Giant Kings were longtime comrades, coordinating seamlessly. The Fire Giant King sneered. No matter how formidable you are, you're ultimately in nascent soul realm. How can you possibly contend against two Giant Kings? After speaking, he exchanged a glance with the Golden Giant King, and they vanished simultaneously. But Jiang Fan was not so easily handled. Holding a mouthful of space-time dust, he cried out, "Fire Giant King, immovable as a mountain!" From his sleeve came a poof, igniting flames. Soon after, ash floated down gracefully. Mid-teleportation, the Fire Giant King suddenly fell, frozen in midair, crossing posture, immobile. His thoughts still stirred, he thundered in fury. "This is Hunyuan State's wish paper? Why does Jiang Fan possess it?" His heart pounded wildly. A flash appeared before him as Jiang Fan maneuvered the three-color divine rainbow forward. Without hesitation, he cleaved it down. The Fire Giant King's face turned pale as he simultaneously rotated his origin star, breaking free from the freeze. Inwardly screaming, "Golden King, save me!" Clang, a sword strike again struck a khaki hand, sparking streaks. The previous scene replayed. The Golden Giant King saved him just in time again. For a Giant King's jumping power akin to teleportation, killing another Giant King before him was like dreaming. The Golden Giant King appeared, sneering, "With me here, you can't move the Fire King." However, Jiang Fan showed no surprise, his eyes instead cold. "Who said my target is the Fire King?" King felt a sudden chill in his heart. He instantly realized that Jiang Fan's true target was him. Jiang Fan, mimicking the Fire Giant King, launched a diversion tactic. But at this moment, it was already too late to realize this. The three-colored divine rainbow in Jiang Fan's hand suddenly rippled, as if dispelling an illusion, revealing its true form. It was no longer the three-colored divine rainbow. It was a black wooden staff with a purple bud growing on it. A sword becoming divine wood. An illusion technique? No, this isn't an illusion technique. The Golden Giant King immediately sensed danger. You've just ignited two wish papers and wished for two wishes. The second wish was to make the divine wood appear as the three-color divine rainbow to me. Even such a powerful three-color divine rainbow couldn't harm him. This pitch-black wood, how could it possibly harm his invulnerable body? Does Jiang Fan trick him into touching the wooden staff with his hand have any deeper meaning? As soon as the thought arose, he suddenly realized something was wrong. A soul-crushing pain, unbearable even for giants, surged from the back of his hand throughout his body. This sensation was as if a mortal was thrown into a cauldron of boiling oil, or tied to a post and carved with 1,000 cuts, or crushed over and over again by a massive millstone. Arg, in an instant, the Golden Giant King let out an unparalleled shriek of pain. The suffering he had borne throughout his life was negligible in comparison to what he felt now. The pain of a broken arm or flesh being sliced was trivial compared to the mosquito bite of the current agony, to the point that he immediately lost his ability to resist. He collapsed heavily to the ground, rolling and roaring in agony, seeming as if life was worse than death. Jiang Fan's eyes flashed with ferocity, raising his hand, a yard-long evil sword in hand. He thrust the sword into the Golden Giant King's mouth, prying it open. Yes, the Golden Giant King was indeed invincible. Even the three-colored divine rainbow could not wound him, but the divine wood directly harmed his soul. Even a great venerate of the heavenly human 5 declines couldn't bear it, let alone a 1-star Giant King. Realizing Jiang Fan was prying his mouth open, the remnant of his consciousness instinctively prompted him to swing his fist and try to knock the evil sword out of his mouth. But the pain surged again. He held his head tightly as if he wanted to crush it and pull out the root cause of his agony. He screamed in a thunderous wail, "Kill me! Just kill me!" This kind of pain rendered life unbearable. The Fire Giant King regained his ability to move, seeing the Golden Giant King's dire state. His eyes immediately reddened. "Human scum, get out of my sight!" Though he did not know why Jiang Fan pried open the stone Giant King's mouth. But Jiang Fan went to great lengths, using 2 wish papers to reach this stage. Surely he was brewing a deadly move to destroy the Giant King. He roared, his fists spewing flames capable of incinerating all, fiercely striking Jiang Fan's back, attempting to force Jiang Fan to retreat. Jiang Fan pressed his tongue against his teeth without any thought of backing away. If he had the time, he could slowly maneuver with the two giant kings, easily crushing them one by one. But he had no time. Only by risking injury could he trade for the golden giant king's life. He pushed the black dragon armor to its limit, and in his hand he held breath soil ready to sprinkle into the golden giant king's great mouth along the evil sword. The terrifying punch force of the fire giant king followed closely. Boom! In a thunderous explosion, Jiang Fan was blasted 1,000 yards away. The black dragon armor rapidly faded, having already weakened after multiple uses. It could no longer withstand the enraged assault of a one-star giant king. The fiery burning power was blocked by the black dragon armor, but only 80%. Yet, 20% penetrated through, mercilessly striking Jiang Fan's back. His skin and flesh vaporized under this fiery force like paper in flames. His chest was pierced with a massive bloody hole, leaving only a battered spine and skin on the sides connecting the upper and lower torso. Normally, one would die. Luckily, Jiang Fan was prepared, gritting his teeth. With two heavenly clothes, divine waters in his mouth, he bit down, spilling green spiritual liquid down his throat, rapidly healing his body along the spine. The fire giant king, just showing a smile of surprise, snarled viciously. "Heavenly clothes, divine water!" Jiang Fan painfully turned his head, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "If you have it, why wouldn't I?" The fire giant king was filled with rage and regret that even this couldn't kill Jiang Fan. What infuriated him more was the golden giant king's intensified wailing. Looking down, the golden giant king's head was swelling like a balloon. The fire giant king finally understood what Jiang Fan had sprinkled. His reaction mixed with shock and fury. "You actually sprinkled breath soil into his mouth." No matter how strong the physique of the golden giant king, it could not withstand continual swelling to the point of explosion. He hurriedly squatted down, plunged his hand into the golden giant king's mouth, attempting to remove the breath soil. But it was already too late. The breath soil made the golden giant king's head quickly swell from the size of a thatched cottage to an acre's size. Then it reached its limit. Boom! In a deafening explosion, the golden giant king's head exploded into smithereens. A sepia star mixed with flesh and blood splattered away. Jiang Fan, whose injuries were half recovered, flashed with killing intent, raising his hand in a gesture. The evil sword roared as it pierced forth. The fire giant king shouted angrily. "Stop!" At the giant king realm, as long as the star remained, and there was a drop of essence blood, one could be reborn from it. Though it wouldn't immediately return to the giant king realm. But with enough nourishment, they could still reclaim their giant king stature. Yet if the star was shattered, they would be utterly and completely dead. With a swish, he vanished in place, surpassing the evil sword, pursuing the star. His massive hand reaching out, it grasped to clutch the star first. Unexpectedly, a chilling voice suddenly rang. "Black sky eyes!" White and blood intertwined, an incredibly fast thunderbolt beam pierced the space, striking the sepia star. Crack, the sepia star shattered into dust. From within the star, the golden giant king's scream echoed. Concealed within his soul and a drop of essence blood vanished with the star. "No!" The fire giant king roared in furious anger. Unable to accept, the golden giant king was erased right in front of him. He turned, red-eyed and as fierce as a maddened beast. Just to see that Jiang Fan was coursing with thunder, an unspeakably strange power within his body. It was this that had merged with the thunder power, causing the ordinary black sky eyes to explode with unparalleled supreme might. "Wang Chengxiao!" The fire giant king spat hatred. Jiang Fan withdrew the thunder power, mocking, imitating the fire giant king's words when he descended upon Central Earth. "The hunt has begun. Why aren't you making a move?" Hearing these words, the fire giant king's eyes reddened. Recalling their initial descent, looking down upon Central Earth with excitement and thrill, thinking they had reached the legendary Holy Land. Yet he and the golden giant king were struck dumb by Jiang Fan. He nearly lost his life twice. The golden giant king was utterly destroyed. Even his star was shattered, completely fallen. Who exactly was hunting who? Jiang Fan's wounds about to heal, the fire giant king gritted his teeth in hatred, emitting a chilling creak. He wished he could eat Jiang Fan alive. Reason told him that even with the golden giant king, he couldn't kill Jiang Fan. How could he manage alone? Right now, the other giant kings hadn't arrived yet. If he rushed in recklessly, he would only end up like the golden giant king. He glanced at the Golden Legion, which had reached the edge of the main battleground and quickly joined the fight. A trace of joy flickered in his eyes. All he needed to do now was hold Jiang Fan off, and the battle at the nascent soul level would be settled. By then, the other giant kings would lead their legions to arrive. Taikang's state would be doomed. No matter how powerful Jiang Fan was, he would only meet his end surrounded by the giant kings, so he changed his mind. A cruel smile curved at his lips as he coldly said, "You seem to care a lot about that Fox Clan female demon. Then I will go and kill her now." Whoosh. With a kick, he transformed into an invisible shadow, charging towards the main battleground. He was gambling, betting that Jiang Fan would intercept him. If so, he could leverage his speed advantage, leading Jiang Fan on a chase and delaying time. However, his plan was good. But Jiang Fan saw through it instantly. His eyes flashed with harshness, yet he didn't chase the fire giant king. Instead, with a few spatial teleportations, he aimed directly at the Golden Legion. If he was led by the nose by the fire giant king. As a result, the fire giant king would rampage back and forth on the main battleground. Not only would Fairy Yun Shang be in danger, but the human clan in the eastern line and the reinforcements coming from the south line would also be slaughtered at will. It would be better to rescue a besieged ally by attacking the besiegers. The fire giant king would kill his targets, and Jiang Fan would kill his. Let's see whose heart aches more. The fire giant king, seeing Jiang Fan heading straight for the Golden Legion, flew into a rage. He hurriedly left the main battleground, shooting to intercept Jiang Fan. The reason was simple. As long as he held Jiang Fan off, the combined power of the Golden Legion and Fire Legion would crush their enemies. But if Jiang Fan was allowed to fight the Golden Legion, even if they ultimately won, the Golden and Fire Legions would suffer near-annihilation casualties. So how could there be any other choice? Jiang Fan had nothing to lose, as he was already doomed. He might as well pull the Golden Legion with him to the grave. In desperation, the Fire Giant King kept shooting forward. Fortunately, he quickly caught up with Jiang Fan. Since Jiang Fan wouldn't take the bait, he would delay him with battle. As long as he was cautious and didn't fall for Jiang Fan's strange tactics, he could delay until the main battlefield's fight concluded, and further delay until the other giant kings arrived. His eyes flickered as he seized the moment when Jiang Fan was about to use spatial teleportation again. A precise strike hit the space nearby. Jiang Fan was expected to fall out, the perfect moment to attack him. He opened his mouth, a long tongue ready to strike. Yet weirdly, the nearby space trembled, but Jiang Fan was nowhere to be seen. Jiang Fan neither fell from space nor successfully teleported into the Golden Legion. He vanished into thin air. No way, he's invisible. The Fire Giant King's face changed drastically, decisively drawing out his wolf fang club, sweeping it around. Long accustomed to hunting, his reflexes and analysis in combat were impeccable. Clang! A dull metallic collision sound suddenly echoed. Did he hit something? The Fire Giant King felt a surge of joy looking towards the sound, only to find it was a massive black cauldron carved with 9 dragon heads. He didn't know what this cauldron was, but it was surprisingly heavy. His wolf fang club had only slightly moved it, but he instantly realized something was wrong. The pause from the wolf fang club's impact provided Jiang Fan with an opportunity for an attack. He hurriedly retreated, but it was too late. 4 symbols, Jiang Fan's icy voice rang out close by. 4 divine images abruptly materialized and slammed into him together. The Earth Elephant Bell held him in place. The Heavenly Order lock chain suppressed his power. 8 armed divine images, a sovereign sword, all attacked at once. The Fire Giant King, caught off guard, was forced back several steps by the attack. However, the 4 symbols didn't do much damage to him. They merely left some fist marks and sword scars on his skin. He steadied himself, casting a mocking glance at the now visible Jiang Fan, sneering, "What's the matter, out of tricks? This move didn't work on me before, using it again now? Running out of means." He was waiting for Jiang Fan to use that piece of divine wood or the 3-color divine rainbow. The wolf fang club in his hand was their bane. Surprisingly, Jiang Fan merely used a cultivation technique. "To deal with you, it's enough," Jiang Fan coldly replied. The Fire Giant King harumphed, looking at the Golden Legion already joined in battle, heaved a sigh of relief. The outcome was now certain. The Golden Legion's entry further devastated the struggling Southeast Line allies. Not only were the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion and Fire Worship Sect trapped in the battle formation, but the reinforcements from the White Horse Temple, Sanking Mountain, and the Jiang family were also caught within. They were under attack from within and outside. The casualties rose sharply. Moreover, bloodlight shimmered above the connecting sky-black pillar, indicating another giant king was leading a legion to arrive soon. Now, as long as the fire giant king methodically delayed Jiang Fan, victory was assured. Understanding the situation, the fire giant king slowly retreated, keeping a distance, preparing for a tug-of-war with Jiang Fan. He took a long breath, chuckling. "Regrettably, victory stands on our side." Jiang Fan simply replied, "Is it?" The fire giant king frowned slightly, sensing another meaning in Jiang Fan's tone. Could he have unknowingly fallen for Jiang Fan's tricks again? At this moment, he suddenly felt a swelling that was intensifying rapidly. Looking down, in the shallow sword scar made by the 4 symbols of Jiang Fan, a seed had sprouted. This seed now seemed activated. Roots like spikes fiercely burrowed into his body, greedily sucking his blood. Simultaneously, the budding corn rapidly expanded, revealing a row of golden teeth. A tongue-like vine flickered like a serpent's tongue. "What is this?" The fire giant king, sensing danger, reached out to tear it from his skin, unexpectedly. The corn abruptly swelled in the wind, in the blink of an eye as large as a house. Almost as big as the fire giant king's head, the giant mouth snapped toward the reaching hand. Crunch! The terrifying bite force crushed the space. The crunch sounded like muffled thunder, causing eardrums to ache. The fire giant king's entire arm severed cleanly from the shoulder. Blood gushed out like a spring. The delayed pain spread through the fire giant king's body. He let out a harrowing scream, fear flashing in his eyes. Never expected, such an inconspicuous thing was so dangerous. He hurriedly raised the wolf fang club and swung it fiercely towards the stalk. Whoosh! Unexpectedly, the vine from the stalk entangled his other arm with lightning speed. As if never-ending, the vine seemed capable of infinite extension. Then it wrapped around his neck and continued to coil downwards. His chest, abdomen, thighs, calves, and finally, ankles. In the blink of an eye, the fire giant king was tied up like a human-shaped rice dumpling. The fire giant king was shocked beyond description. A fiery red star in the center of his brow spun rapidly, his body attempting to melt into magma to splatter outwards. But the end of the vine pierced into the star, immobilizing its rotation, preventing the fire giant king from deploying his domain. "What is this thing?" The fire giant king panicked. He struggled fiercely, but the vine's resilience was beyond imagination. No matter how hard he exerted himself, he couldn't break free. Unwilling to concede, he spat out his long tongue, shooting it towards the stalk. With a puff, the stalk was easily pierced through, yet the seed remained unscathed. Contrarily, a sharp pain suddenly lashed through his tongue. The fire giant king drew back his tongue, only to discover that it had corroded rotten when dipped into the stalk's unknown liquid. Moreover, this action had angered the seed. The stalk rose high, reaching above the fire giant king's head. That stalk, as large as his head, quickly opened its massive mouth. His bitten-off arm was being corroded into a piece of white bone inside the mouth. The fire giant king's head was overshadowed by the stalk. This made him scream in horror. "Stop! Make it stop!" The fire giant king couldn't recall how many lives he had devoured. He only knew he loved to eat them alive. The feeling of prey hopelessly squirming in his mouth surpassed the taste of the food itself. He believed he would feast on more living creatures in the future, and would continue forever. Because he stood atop the food chain, all other creatures were born to serve as his nourishment. Yet, in his wildest dreams, he never anticipated that he would be devoured alive by a more terrifying creature. He was frightened, terrified, and utterly desperate. Just like those living creatures he once devoured feared him. "Wang Chengxia, I admit my wrongs. I am willing to become a slave for your human clan. Please spare me, I beg you." In response, Jiang Fan's cold, merciless gaze. "Did you admit your wrongs when you ate Usura clan children? Did you admit your wrongs after slaughtering so many of our human clan in Central Earth? Now, dying, you think you've realized your mistakes? Admit your wrongs to the Yellow Springs, to those souls who died with unfinished business." He turned away. The fixed seed's enormous mouth suddenly engulfed the fire giant king's head. The gigantic head stretched the stalk to its limit. His face pressed tightly against the stalk, imprinting his distorted features. He screamed in terror, making one last plea. "Spare me, I'll plead the giant clan for you in Central Earth." Crunch! The stalk's teeth exerted force, severing his neck, then tossed back its head, swallowing the entire head down. The seemingly tiny seed, along with its slender sprout, could accommodate the giant head. The fire giant king's voice of pleading abruptly ceased. Subsequently, the stalk devoured the fire giant king chunk by chunk. Seconds later, the sprout's two leaves gently patted its belly as if they were hands, indicating it was stuffed. Burp! Suddenly, the stalk shrunk backward, then unexpectedly sprayed forward. A massive quantity of acidic, foul liquid, along with undigested broken bones, was ejected. Among them, a half-corroded, incomplete fiery red star remained. The fire giant king had utterly fallen. Jiang Fan glanced at the star, saying coldly, "Being eaten alive is your destiny." He retrieved the seed without hesitation and dashed towards the main battlefield. The inside and outside crossfire from the Gold Battalion and Fire Battalion left the Southeast Alliance Army extremely passive. Internally entangled, inescapable. While the Gold Battalion pressed forward like an overwhelming torrent of steel, forcibly splitting the main battlefield into east and west sides. Then, each encircled, forming two enclosures. Holding wolf fang clubs, they continued swinging, smashing, and injuring human clan warriors in pieces. After clearing an area, they would step forward a few paces, shrinking the encirclement. This led to the beings inside the enclosures fighting hand-to-hand, unable to maintain distance, forced into close combat with the ancient giants. And close combat was the ancient giants' forte. Without the giant kings to command, the Gold Battalion showcased unparalleled synergy, executing powerful tactics. This was related to their daily hunting. This ingrained experience was unique among creatures. The human clan warriors within the enclosures were all in a precarious state. Whichever side Jiang Fan aids, the other will face near extinction. "Brother Jiang, I am at the east side." From the western enclosure came a determined voice. It was the Dharma seal. He had shed his usual composure, his gaze determined and murderous, his entire body stained with blood, as if soaked in a barrel of blood. Except Yue at his side, whose ethereal dress remained untouched by dust. She accompanied Dharma Seal silently, not intervening. Seeing the critical situation, he gritted his teeth, saying to Yue, "Lend me your power." Yue hesitated briefly, then gently nodded, placing her finger on Dharma Seal's brow. Immediately, Dharma Seal's aura surged dramatically, akin to Jiang Fan's display of 6-in-1. His cultivation soared to the divinity transformation realm. In contrast, Yue's body briefly turned transparent. Although quickly restored, it clearly demonstrated the substantial cost to Yue. Jiang Fan expressed gratitude, bowing to Dharma Seal and Yue. "Thank you both." "I, Jiang, thank you." He bowed deeply and swiftly charged into the western battlefield. Quickly scanning. On the periphery, 50 ancient giants precisely executing tasks, steadily compressing the enclosure. Inside, 30 more, tasked with close-range hunting of human clan warriors. The priority is to breach the enclosure, granting the human clan sufficient space for ranged combat against the ancient giants. He darted forward, shouted loudly, "The gold and fire giant kings are dead! The giant kings are dead!" Deploying full strength to shout, barely surpassing the battlefield chaos. The ancient giants halted in their tracks, looking towards the combat zone, indeed absent of the fire giant king's presence. The gold giant king only left behind a headless, gigantic corpse. This instantly sparked panic and turmoil. Jiang Fan seized the moment, shouting, "I am Wang Chengxiao, slayer of the space giant king and captor of Princess Zaijiang. Those who do not want to die, clear off." A tree casts a shadow. Wang Chengxiao made 2 expeditions to the heavenly realm, first to slay the space giant king, then to annihilate Wu Gu, exterminating an entire camp. He had long been a shadow within the ancient giants' hearts. Now having consecutively slain the gold giant king and fire giant king who led them here, who wouldn't falter at heart, the ancient giants exchanged glances, all harboring thoughts of retreat. However, just then, boom. From the Forbidden Land came another tremendously thunderous boom. A giant king surrounded by whirling yellow sand, standing 20 zhang tall, led a battalion to descend. Overlooking the scene, he noticed the eastern situation. A sinister smile, "Seems like the glory is mine." Jiang Fan, hearing this, felt his heart sink. Another giant king and a battalion of 100 soldiers. No, not just that. Ancient giants fell like raindrops, so dense in number, that's a full 2 battalions. The Sand Giant King brought not only his own battalion, but also the battalion of the Shadow Giant King who had already engaged in battle. However, it left Jiang Fan breathless. Rumble. A deafening boom echoed, another Giant King descended. His brow bore a dim gray star, revealing not what kind of giant king he was. But the aura he emitted was perilously dangerous. Accompanying him was a battalion belonging to him. 2 giant kings plus 3 battalions. How can this battle be fought? If they rush to the east line would instantly collapse. Rushing to the north line, the west line would also instantly collapse. This giant force, far exceeding the battlefield's strength, would bring annihilating power wherever it engaged. For a moment, both west and east line human clan experts fell into despair. This was a battle of utter disparity. Even though they were mentally prepared before the Great War, when truly facing a giant army twice the strength of their own. The despair from the depths of their hearts couldn't be suppressed. On the contrary, the giants on the east line, intimidated by Jiang Fan, found their morale soaring when they saw allies arrive. They opened their mouths to roar, swung wolf fang clubs, savagely smashing, speeding up the enclosing circle. The battle situation took a sharp downturn, reaching a perilous juncture. Even Jiang Fan hesitated for a moment. Was there any point in continuing this battle? The weapons captured from the Black Sun Royal Court's armory ended up with the wolf fang clubs back in ancient giants' hands, moving the connecting sky-black pillar to the Forbidden Land, yet it didn't have the desired effect. The pre-battle plans during actual combat didn't yield much. One can only say the battlefield changes too swiftly beyond estimation. The only hope was Jiang Fan had slain the Fire Giant King. The fire road, paved with his origin power, had extinguished. The descended ancient giants without protection would suffer erosion from the Forbidden Land. If the 2 giant kings had no means to counter the Forbidden Land, making the descended giants severely wounded, they might still have a glimmer of hope. However, Jiang Fan's hopes were soon dashed. The Sand Giant King, having barely landed, noticed the extinguishing of the fire road. His vertical eye squinted. "The Fire Giant King has fallen," the unidentified Giant King said in a deep voice. "Don't worry about him for now. Protect the descending battalions." The erosion from the Forbidden Land was already sizzling the skin of the descended ancient giants. A delay any longer and it would corrode into flesh. This was due to the ancient giant's thick skin. Had it been a nascent soul expert of the human clan, they would have already been reduced to a bloody mush. The Sand Giant King didn't hesitate. The star on his brow spun rapidly. Instantly the ground surged like waves. Countless grains of sand rolled up from below, transforming into swiftly moving sand waves, sweeping the descending ancient giants, propelling them outward at high speed. Such a speed was enough to protect the ancient giants from the Forbidden Land in a short time. At most, they'd suffer only minor superficial injuries. The effect of the misfortune would also minimize. In a blink, 300 ancient giants were carried out one after another by the Sand Sea. Some of them had already reached the edge of the Forbidden Land. The next moment, they were about to rush out of the Forbidden Land and become the torrent that crushes the Taikang State's army. At this moment, with a loud bang, the ancient giants about to rush out suddenly hit something invisible and resilient at the edge of the Forbidden Land. They were bounced back, landing heavily on the ground. Subsequently, ancient giants from other directions collided as well, either tumbling over or stumbling back. The unprepared ancient giants behind them were knocked over in a heap. The Sand Giant King's face changed slightly. He decisively stopped the Sand Sea and directed it towards the boundary of the Forbidden Land. The result was that the Sand Sea hit something and was bounced back. With repeated impacts, that invisible, resilient thing gradually manifested. It turned out to be an enormous bowl-shaped light shield, like an overturned bowl covering the entire Forbidden Land. It was entirely golden, brimming with ancient rhythms. Jiang Fan recognized it, exclaiming in surprise, "The light barrier of the Heavenly Mountain battlefield." He wasn't mistaken. This was indeed the light barrier that had sealed the Heavenly Mountain battlefield for a millennium. Perhaps those in the divinity transformation realm could forcefully break through, but those in the nascent soul realm couldn't pass at all. Looking at the top of the light barrier, the missing Jiang Wuya, holding a bamboo slip, was reciting spells. Streams of divinity transformation power flowed into the glowing barrier under his feet, increasingly solidifying it. Even those in the divinity transformation realm would find it difficult to pass through. Jiang Fan suddenly realized. No wonder Jiang Wuya disappeared at the beginning of the battle. He had been following the Great Wine Sacrifice's order, executing a more crucial mission. The Great Wine Sacrifice predicted it all, foreseeing that giant kings would have measures to counter restrictions. So in secret, Jiang Wuya was tasked with sealing the large influx of ancient giants when they descended. This way, it allowed human clan experts outside to annihilate the ancient giants' vanguard, completing a small victory. It also maximized the damage to the reinforcing ancient giants, reducing pressure for subsequent warfare. As for how long they could remain sealed in the Forbidden Land, it depended on how long Jiang Wuya could hold out. But no matter what, this greatly boosted the human clan's morale on the battlefield. Both the allied forces mixed in the northern battle, and those on the east line, trapped in the encirclement, found a chance for survival. Disciples of the fire worship sect, those who aren't dead, keep killing. The fire worship sect leader, covered in blood, shouted with his mouth wide open. He led by example, charging towards a giant. The heavenly mechanism pavilion master had an arm smashed to the bone, blood flowing. He gritted his teeth, saying to Xianxia beside him, "Hold on, Jiang Fan will soon come to rescue us." "You mustn't die." Xianxia at this time was weak, her heart pierced with a bloody hole by an ancient giant. Their heavenly clothes' divine water had long been used up. She persisted upright with a small feather replacing her heart. Looking at the earth-tooth sword Jiang Fan gave her, she bit her lips slightly and said, "I would have no regrets if I died. But I cannot let the sword of my martial uncle be lost from my hands." She gripped the earth-tooth sword tightly, joining the others to counterattack the giants. The ancient giants were also aware it was a moment of life or death. If the reinforcements were trapped, they'd die. If they weren't trapped, they could completely bury this reckless human clan army. Roar, 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 the ancient giants roared in unison, raising their wolf fang clubs fiercely for a final battle. For a moment, the cries of the human clan army and the roars of the ancient giants pushed this millennium-delayed great war to its fiercest point. Countless human clan members fell, while ancient giants were also occasionally slaughtered. Both sides suffered unprecedented losses. Truly a meat grinder. Jiang Fan's hair stood on end in rage, charging toward the ancient giants on the outskirts. Nascent soul, standing 10-odd feet high, with a twisted grin, who had slaughtered many from the human clan. The transparent soul nail instantly pierced into its soul. The soul was one of the few weaknesses of the ancient giants. The soul nail formed by the soul power of Jiang Fan's 9-aperture nascent soul was unbearable for a 9-aperture giant. Roar! In an instant, its soul was shattered. With a dreadful scream, it fell to the ground, its vertical eye turning white. The fall of the 9-aperture giant provoked angry roars from several surrounding ancient giants. From afar, they opened their mouths and shot out their tongues, while nearby, they swung heavy wolf fang clubs. Jiang Fan snorted coldly. "Purple thunder!" Crack. A purple light flew out from the heavenly thunder stone in his arms, turning into a purple afterimage that sliced all the tongues. As for the nearby wolf fang clubs, with a flip of his palm, a palm-sized 5-colored stone appeared. As he tossed it into the air, the 5-colored stone grew bigger with the wind, transforming into a 5-colored small mountain. Seizing soldiers, the long-unused 5 magnetic Yuan mountain finally could exhibit its rightful battle power, with the release of its seizing capability. The 2 wolf fang clubs swung towards Jiang Fan were subjected to the strong magnetic pull of the 5 magnetic Yuan mountain. Even with the force of the ancient giants, they couldn't hold on to them. With 2 clangs, both wolf fang clubs were seized and tightly absorbed by the 5 magnetic Yuan mountain. Of course, Jiang Fan sought more than just the 2 wolf fang clubs in front of him. "Go!" Jiang Fan pointed with his finger, and the 5 magnetic Yuan mountain radiated brightly, passing over the heads of the surrounding ancient giants. Wolf fang clubs were seized one after another, though some weapons belonging to human clan soldiers near the periphery were inadvertently taken. But because of the height of the ancient giants, the 5 magnetic Yuan mountain being overhead, the distance from the humans was relatively far, making the seizing effect relatively weaker. Most of the human clan realized something was amiss and retrieved their weapons in time. Only a few were taken. However, the battlefield was littered with countless human clan corpses. Their weapons were innumerable. They did not lack temporary weapons to use. For the ancient giants, it was different. The wolf fang club was their sole weapon. Once taken, their ability to inflict damage on the human clan greatly diminished. No longer could they cause large-scale harm as before. This dramatically reduced the pressure on the besieged human clan. Only in the chaotic battle among ancient giants did Jiang Fan worry about causing widespread accidental harm to his people. thereby preventing the use of the 5 magnetic Yuan mountain against them. Nevertheless, the 5 magnetic Yuan mountain still had its utility. He pointed again, and the 5 magnetic Yuan mountain charged straight towards the east flank overseen by the Dharma seal. In the same manner, it seized the wolf fang clubs of the outer ancient giants. The Dharma seal, in the midst of a furious fight, was overjoyed, turned and gave Jiang Fan a grateful glance, then like a blood-soaked furious Buddha, slaughtered a swath of giants. Jiang Fan didn't stop either. 4 symbols: undying blade, black sky eyes, heaven-slaying furnace, evil sword. Whenever he struck, he claimed the life of an ancient giant. The encirclement of ancient giants quickly tore open a massive gap, allowing those trapped from the human clan to break free and turn upon the flanked giants, continuing to widen the breach. Those still inside the circle could finally distance themselves, avoiding close combat with the ancient giants. Casualties decreased rapidly, and they started to orchestrate a counterattack, forcing the outer ancient giants to retreat. In certain areas, breaches were created, allowing more of the human clan to break out of the encirclement, trapping the ancient giants inside. Thus, the encirclement disintegrated, and both sides plunged into total chaos. The tactical encirclement by the Gold Warband was declared a failure. Moreover, there existed human clan nascent Soul Realm experts inside. Externally, Jiang Fan's more terrifying presence slaughtered giants at a horrifying pace, claiming a giant in the blink of an eye. This instilled panic among the ancient giants. If it continued, they wouldn't last until the 2 giant kings and the warband came to aid. The same was noticed by the Sand Giant King on the eastern front, who roared continuously, "Wang Chengxiao!" Nothing was more humiliating than to watch one's kin be slaughtered by a mere bug. Moreover, his anger was magnified. They had fallen into the human clan's trap, including him and another giant king, plus 3 entire warbands, all trapped within the Forbidden Land. Ah, my eyes! My hand is decaying, my eyes are nearly blind. Giant King, save us. Because they failed to leave the Forbidden Land in time, the 2 giant kings, relying on their powerful physiques, remained relatively safe. But the giants were in peril. The terrifying black mist he relentlessly corroded their bodies. The eyes, being the weakest part, were the first to deteriorate, followed by ears and mouth. If they didn't leave soon, the 3 war bands, totaling 300 giants, would become blind, deaf, and mute. The Sand Giant King roared in fury, the star at his brow spinning fiercely. The yellow sand of the Forbidden Land coalesced into a towering giant 100 feet high, delivering a devastating punch to the Golden Light Shield. Buzz! The Golden Light Shield trembled violently, cracking in a web of fractures, nearly breaking. Above the shield, Jiang Wuya infused it with surging divinity transformation power. The cracks were nourished, mending swiftly. The Sand Giant King glared angrily at Jiang Wuya, saying with a chilling tone, "Human clan, let's see how much divinity transformation power you can wield." Boom, boom, boom. He unleashed his source power, continuously commanding the 100-foot giant to strike the shield repeatedly. Jiang Wuya's gaze was firm, equally sparing no effort to inject divinity transformation power. He stood in the sky overlooking the entire scene, full aware of his vital role. His persistence dictated the victory or defeat of the entire battle. Even in death, he would uphold the shield to the final moment. The 100-foot giant struck 10 times, each time, as the shield was on the verge of breaking. Jiang Wuya released divinity transformation power to stabilize it. During their exchange, the corrosion of the Forbidden Land finally inflicted immeasurable damage on the giants. Almost all of their eyes rotted away. Even those who kept their eyes shut had their eyelids eroded first, then the eyeballs were corroded into murky sludge. Their ears, mouths, and tongues also rotted away successively. Their bodies developed potholes, gradually corroding to expose bones. The 300 giants, losing more than half their combat effectiveness due to decay. The Sand Giant King roared continuously, "Soul Giant King, what are you waiting for? Kill that human clan's divinity transformation." The king, silent until now, with a gray star on his brow, regretfully glanced at Jiang Fan in the distance. With a sigh, he said, "The Black Sun King instructed me to deliver a fatal blow to Wang Chengxiao. Now, I have no choice but to reveal myself." He was the most dangerous existence within the Black Sun royal court, second only to the Space Giant King. His domain was the Soul Origin. It was also the Black Sun King's ace to eliminate Jiang Fan. To prevent Jiang Fan from getting wind of it, he had been holding back before. Alas, now he had no choice but to reveal it. He raised his head, looking up at Jiang Wuya above. The dark gray star at the center of his brows began to slowly turn. At this moment, Jiang Wuya's face was slightly pale. Only 1/10 of the divinity transformation power remained within him. The divinity transformation power consumed to maintain the light shield was immense. Coupled with the duel against the giant king of sand, the consumption was even like a bottomless pit. This was all thanks to Jiang Fan's contribution in the battle on the demon continent, earning him many rewards and giving him a foundation as deep as an old divinity transformation, for which he benefited. Otherwise, with his recently reached divinity transformation foundation, he wouldn't be able to withstand the 10 strikes from the giant king of sand. However, he had no intention of giving up. Hold on a little longer, and the Forbidden Land can completely kill 3 battle regiments. These are a full 30% of the ancient giant's combat power. Moreover, this could buy Jiang Fan more time to destroy the gold and fire battle regiments. In this way, half of the ancient giant's troops would be wiped out. Whether Taikang's state can turn the tide of the war will depend on this move. However, he suddenly felt a chill all over his body. All the hair on his body stood up involuntarily. His skin was covered with countless goosebumps. A strong premonition of danger surged in his heart. That was the omen of death. A moment of hesitation flashed in his mind about whether to use instantaneous movement to escape. But in the next moment, he discarded all distractions and swiftly held the heavenly clothes divine water given by Jiang Fan in his mouth. Just as it entered his mouth, a severe, unimaginable pain erupted in his soul. A dark gray, semi-transparent arrow was embedded in his head, right between his brows, and the arrowhead had penetrated deep into his skull. It didn't cause any harm to his physical body, not a single drop of blood was shed. However, it pierced into Jiang Wuya's soul. This was a soul arrow. It was the original power of the Soul Giant King, specifically aimed at destroying the soul. Apart from the 5-star Giant King, none of the other Giant Kings from the Black Sun Royal Court could withstand this soul arrow. Jiang Wuya was no exception. Crack. Jiang Wuya's soul shattered, turning into soul-light spots that passed through his skull and slowly drifted into the outside world. The heavenly clothes divine water in his mouth turned into a green liquid, attempting to soothe his soul. But it was of no effect. Heavenly clothes divine water only worked on physical wounds, not soul injuries. Jiang Wuya's vision darkened as he collapsed against the light shield. His consciousness quickly blurred, sliding into the eternal abyss. "Is this the end?" he murmured in his heart. Even though he had anticipated that he might fall in battle, this moment came too suddenly. In his mind, he struggled to recall his life. The youthful days of high-spirited elegance. The period of his youth as a sword Dao prodigy admired by the masses. The middle-aged man whom everyone expected great things from, finally trapped in the 9-aperture nascent soul, unable to awaken, a madman. Finally, with a word from Jiang Fan, he became the divinity transformation venerable of Taikang's state, shouldering the mission for all living beings. Now, he was bearing the key to determining the outcome of this great war. Thinking of this, his consciousness suddenly gathered a little. "I cannot fall yet. I am Jiang Wuya, the Jiang Wuya who purges demons and upholds the Tao. Righteousness fills the universe, eternal as the heavens and earth. Eliminate evil and demons, let the righteous path flourish forever." In the Forbidden Land. The star at the center of the Soul Giant King's brow stopped spinning. He said faintly, "It's over." The Fire Giant King was filled with apprehension. As it turned out, only the Soul Giant King could kill a human clan divinity transformation with a single strike. Perceiving Jiang Wuya's aura rapidly dissipating, he breathed a sigh of relief. Without further ado, he once again gathered sand to form a massive 100-jang giant, bombarding the light shield. At this moment, the ancient giants had reached a fully decayed state. If they delay any longer, they will all die here. Boom! The light shield trembled violently, cracks spreading all over it. One more strike and it would completely shatter the light shield. But the Soul Giant King seemed to sense something. Suddenly tilted his head up to look at Jiang Wuya above him, exclaiming in surprise, "Impossible!" Yet he saw Jiang Wuya, whose aura had faded to just a thread and whose soul had completely shattered, actually opened his eyes. He struggled to move his finger, taking a black, sharp, long needle from his space storage device and jammed it into the light shield. The Soul Giant King couldn't believe it. His soul is shattered, yet he still has consciousness. Such a terrifying willpower. His massive vertical eye was filled with shock. The Fire Giant King exclaimed in surprise, "What's he doing?" Watching Jiang Wuya's actions, he had a bad premonition, quickly mobilizing the giant to punch the light shield again. And Jiang Wuya, a roar that was difficult to hear, clearly erupted from his throat. The nearly extinct Jiang Wuya, relying on a willpower beyond human imagination, moved his body. He struggled to lift his chest and then pushed off with both feet. His whole body lunged onto the black steel needle. Puff! The steel needle pierced into his abdomen, stabbing into the source of his divinity transformation power. Countless divinity transformation powers were extracted through the steel needle and infused into the light shield. The cracked light shield was immediately repaired. The 100 Jiang Giant's punch ultimately couldn't break it. And Jiang Wuya, his last breath, vanished with it. A wisp of his last soul-light spot also floated out of his body, disappearing into the void. Taikang State's first divinity transformation venerable had fallen. He was a generation's sword king, Jiang Wuya. He was Jiang Wuya who wholeheartedly supported the righteous path. The heart demon venerable in fierce battle, the onlooking evil crow venerable, the heavenly listening bodhisattva fighting afar, even the newly entered divinity transformation realm Dharma seal. Along with Jiang Fan, who was slaughtering ancient giants, all sensed it. They all looked towards the top of the light shield. The lifeless body of Jiang Wuya came into view. Jiang Fan was stunned. The focus in his eyes vanished, his mind went blank. Is that Jiang Wuya? He couldn't believe it, nor could he accept it. How could it be Jiang Wuya? How could it be the Jiang Wuya on the heavenly ascending ancient road, who even in madness never forgot to protect the weak, slaying the man-eating blood monsters and gifting him sword intent? How could it be him? No! Jiang Fan's eyes instantly reddened. He leaped forward, intending to rescue him. No matter how slim the chance was, he wanted to save him. Yet a fragmented, intermittent remnant thought echoed in his mind. It was Jiang Wuya's voice. The last consciousness he left in this world for Jiang Fan. Brother, I can't fight with you to the end. For me, protect. This world, tears gushed from Jiang Fan's eyes instantly. Brother Jiang! But he stopped his steps, refraining from rushing over. With towering, killing intent in his eyes, he glanced at the 2 giant kings in the Forbidden Land, then turned around, returning to the battlefield. Looking at the clusters of ancient giants, his killing intent reached a peak. All of you deserve to die. 9 Phoenix KO, Dao Hairpin. 5 phoenixes flew out from the parasol tree, transforming into fatal deities of death, each attacking the ancient giants. Jiang Fan, with bloodshot eyes, stormed into the fray wielding purple thunder. He had only one thought now. Kill them all, leave none alive. Wuya sacrificed himself to trap 3 battalions, buying them a chance for survival. Clearly, he could have escaped first. Stop crying, don't let Senior Jiang's sacrifice be in vain. Right. Kill all the giants, bury them with Senior Jiang. The battlefield roared with battle cries. The death of Wuyu Venerable filled them with a fearless courage against the giants. The death of Jiang Wuya filled them with a hatred to annihilate every giant. The Human Race Alliance army turned their grief into a murderous intent, like a furious tiger swallowing the sky. Whether it was the Atorifice nascent soul or the 4 apertures nascent soul, no one hesitated. All charged fearlessly towards the nearest ancient giant. The ancient giants, who had barely held their own against the humans, were immediately met with unprecedented attacks. Boom, one of the ancient giants fell. Then 2, 3, 4 more followed. More and more ancient giants, unable to withstand the mad assault, collapsed one after another. The remaining ancient giants were terrified by the frenzied humans. No matter how many they stomped to death, more would spring up. These humans, small as insects in their eyes, instilled in them an unprecedented fear. Furthermore, 3 battle groups and 2 giant kings were trapped, unable to assist. Finally, their fighting spirit shattered. The ancient giants who hadn't yet entered the center of the battlefield turned and fled. And as they ran, those deep within the battlefield saw their own resolve crumble. Some, in desperation, crashed their way out. Those who couldn't escape simply raised their hands, knelt on the ground, and let out mournful wails in the language of hell. Though their language was not understood, their meaning was clear. Surrender, this made the humans hesitate, slowing their attacks. They were unsure whether to accept the surrender or reject it. Slash. A purple light, sharp as a blade, flashed by, decapitating one with a single stroke, sending its head flying skyward. Jiang Fan, drenched in blood, his black hair matted into clumps. His face and neck were covered in blood, as if lifted from a blood pool. Only his eyes were distinguishable, like a beast's, filled with boundless slaughter. Surrender, you're not worthy. Ancient giants, no mercy. The crowd snapped back to reality. Damn, it's a war of extermination. Who cares about rules of war who'd accept captives? If they surrendered, would the ancient giants accept? No, they'd just be seen as food, tossed into mouths and eaten alive. These cannibalistic freaks deserve only one outcome: complete annihilation. Thus, the killing cries shook the heavens. The surrendering ancient giants were slaughtered by the masses. Those attempting to escape the battlefield were intercepted and swiftly killed by the enraged alliance. Meanwhile, Jiang Fan, wielding the purple thunder, set his gaze on the ancient giants fleeing to various corners, hunting them down one by one. 1, 2, 3, a dozen breaths later. Jiang Fan's eyes were bloodshot, unable to count how many ancient giants he'd slain, until he felt exhausted, noticing only 2 or 3 ancient giants still alive, escaping far away, trying to flee the battlefield, scattering into the desolate lands of Taikang State. Jiang Fan pulled out an anti-void spirit pill and swallowed it in one gulp. But before he could recover his nascent soul power, dense sounds of air being sliced headed towards the 3 ancient giants. It was the newly reorganized rear battalion, splitting into 2 groups. One unit launched long-range attacks on the remaining ancient giants encircled on the battlefield. The other pursued the 3 fleeing ancient giants. Nangong Xiaoyan, eyes glistening with tears, glanced at Jiang Wuya's remains and said, "Brother Jiang, go do what you want to do. Leave the rest to us." Jiang Fan surveyed the 2 small battle circles. With the addition of machinery, the remaining ancient giants were in their last throes. The skirmishes were decided, no suspense remained. No need for his lead anymore. What he must do now is avenge. Inside the Forbidden Land, the Sand Giant King madly pummeled the light barrier, exhausting the last trace of divinity transformation power in Jiang Wuya's corpse. The light barrier could no longer hold and shattered with a crack. The Sand Giant King and Soul Giant King leaped out in a flash. They didn't bother with the 3 battalions they brought, because it was no longer necessary. 3 battalions, utterly silent, turned into blood slurry. Several 9 aperture giants reduced to mere skeletons. Jiang Wuya, with his own strength, trapped 300 ancient giants, rewriting the battle. And the Sand and Soul Giant Kings, trapped too long, were corroded to fleshless fragments. Their huge vertical eyes corroded, endlessly bleeding, blurring their sight. The severe pain fiercely stimulated their nerves. The Sand Giant King turned his resentful glare to the top of the light barrier where Jiang Wuya's body lay. He kicked off and leapt, filled with immense rage, aiming a stomp at Jiang Wuya's body. "You despicable worm! Who would have thought he alone could doom 300 of their ancient giants?" Even grinding him to dust wouldn't quench his fury. Just as his massive foot was to land, a blurred vision saw a triply-colored fleeting shadow. His heart froze, the intuition of a hunter sensing the deadly 3-color divine rainbow. He swiftly twisted. With his immense combat experience, he could easily evade the sword. Oddly, his waist suddenly hurt, momentarily stiffening. So although he should have fully dodged the 3-color divine rainbow, it grazed his waist. Splurt! A chunk of flesh, bone and all, was slashed away, blood spurting wildly. The intense pain deferred made the Sand Giant King roar with agony. In his ear, the Soul Giant King's reminder, "Retreat quickly. With misfortune invading, you and I shouldn't fight." The Sand Giant King's heart tightened, remembering the Forbidden Land's harm wasn't just flesh corrosion, but also the remnants of Misfortune Sage's law. Bearing the severe pain, he swiftly returned, standing alongside the Soul Giant King, once more looking towards the peak of the light barrier. Jiang Wuya's body had already been removed from the black steel needle by Jiang Fan. "Wang Chengxiao!" The Sand Giant King seethed with hatred. In their descent, they faced massive setbacks, and the one responsible was this Wang Chengxiao. If he hadn't initially slain the Space Giant King, if not for reversing Ari Shura King's gigantification. If he hadn't, with his strength alone, killed the Fire and Golden Giant Kings, how would the situation be like this? A hunt meant to be a one-sided massacre turned into severe casualties for the ancient giants. Jiang Fan had no time for them. He cradled Jiang Wuya's body, feeling the hollow life force and dead soul waves within. The last glimmer of hope in his heart extinguished. "Brother Jiang!" He looked up at the sky, murmuring silently. The boundless blood clouds shrouded the world, painting the sky, the earth, and the rivers a bloody red. Like a bloody sunset shining upon the world, Jiang Fan's face, bathed in the bloody glow, resembled an Usura from the apocalypse. "You, just watch well, and see how I for you protect this world." Soared and swept around. The dragon patterns on the sword body opened their mouths, exhaling a chill that even froze the air. Jiang Fan put down Jiang Wuya, allowing his body to be sealed in ice with an upright posture, standing atop the light shield, overlooking the battlefield, overlooking the homeland he guarded until his death. He withdrew his gaze from the sky and slowly moved toward the Soul Giant King. His eyes were colder than the ice dragon's breath, like two ice caverns. The Soul Giant King's vertical eye narrowed slightly. As a soul origin entity, his perception of danger was exceptionally acute. Jiang Fan gave him a sense of danger surpassing that of the Space Giant King. Even if he teamed up with the Sand Giant King, they might not be Jiang Fan's match. This fact was already evident from the fall of the Golden Giant King and the Fire Giant King. Bang! Suddenly the center of the Forbidden Land quaked violently. Something colossal had arrived. It's the Giant King, swoosh. In the next moment, dust flew around them, and a Giant King with a translucent star on his forehead instantly appeared. His arms were crossed over his chest, and he glanced around the scene, speaking in a deep voice. How did it end up like this? At the Forbidden Land, 300 giants had melted into blood mud. On the East Line battlefield, the 200 giants were nearly extinct. On the North Line battlefield, 100 giants were barely surviving amidst the siege by the Human Race Alliance army, several times their number. The 600 giants of the vanguard had been slaughtered completely. This was completely beyond the plan. According to the plan, the Golden Giant King, Fire Giant King, and Stone Giant King were supposed to lead 3 battle groups to hold off the main force of the Human Race Alliance army. Then the Shadow Giant King, Sand Giant King, and Soul Giant King would lead 3 battle groups to annihilate the main force of the Human Race Alliance army. Finally, the remaining Giant King would lead 4 battle groups to eliminate the remnants, ensuring the total extermination of the human clan nascent soul realm. But what is the current situation? The 600 battle groups had all been wiped out, and 2 Giant Kings had fallen. The main force of the Human Race Alliance army had suffered significant casualties, but still maintained a strong combat capability. He was filled with both shock and fury. The Giant Kings who arrived first, were they a bunch of incompetents? Bang, bang, bang behind him, the sound of dense impacts was heard. The noise was ceaseless, like the persistent beating of a muffled drum. It lasted longer than any previous occurrence. The ancient giants, the final 400 giants, all descended upon Taikang State. Bang. Finally, a sound that shook the earth, distinctly different from the overwhelming noise of the Giant King, rolled in. A terrifying presence had arrived along with the 400 giants. An indifferent voice resonated from the Forbidden Land. Kill the Giant King, guide the warriors out of the Forbidden Land. The arrogant Sand Giant King's expression turned stern, not daring to show the slightest disobedience. He quickly activated the Sand Origin. The 400 giants, barely landing before suffering severe corrosion from the Forbidden Land, were swept away by a sea of sand and removed from the Forbidden Land. Majestic mountains stood black in front of the Forbidden Land. The long shadows they cast stretched over the battlefield, plunging the newly gasping for breath Human Race Alliance army back into a suffocating abyss. From within the Forbidden Land, that mysterious giant spoke again, indifferently. Shadow Giant King, Stone Giant King, come back. Northwest direction. The Stone Giant King scowled. The stone battle group he led was initially unstoppable. The Northwest only had the great Yin sect and Jiangshan first-class building without a divinity transformation venerable. They roamed freely, swiftly defeating the Northwest Alliance army. Who would have thought that the Fire Giant King and Golden Giant King would be successively slain, leaving the North Line's 10,000 tribulations holy temple without anyone to hold it back? In the end, the Northwest forces merged. Human clan elites above the nascent soul middle stage were double the stone battle group, plus nearly 1,000 nascent soul early stage troops wielding equipment. He waited desperately for reinforcements, but the stone battle group was completely annihilated, and he was entangled by the heart demon venerable, not having a chance to make a move. HMPH, your Taikang State is nothing more than a dying struggle. He activated his origin and used the invincible petrified body to shake off the heart demon venerable, bouncing back to the front of the Forbidden Land. Northeast direction. The Shadow Giant King gasped heavily, appearing disheveled, remorseful. That bald donkey is acting strange. He's not a typical heavenly person. Decline. As the Shadow Origin Giant King with bizarre abilities, his methods were both strange and dangerous. Facing any divinity transformation realm in Taikang State, He could toy with them easily. However, facing the Bodhisattva, he was nearly obliterated several times. He listened to the call. No longer daring to linger in battle, he decisively transformed into a shadow and vanished. When he reappeared, he emerged from among the shadows of the 400 giants. His eyes filled with venom. "Damn human clan! They must die today!" Human clan sighed. On the west line, the Alliance army quickly assembled under the Heart Demon Venerable's command. Of the more than 200 late-stage nascent soul, only over 150 could still fight, while the rest were either dead or wounded. The nearly 1,000 nascent soul early-stage elites also suffered, leaving only 500, more than half had fallen. Their battle-loss ratio reached a heartbreaking 1-6. The Heart Demon Venerable's heart was bleeding. The cost was too heavy, but they couldn't stop, because next it was the decisive battle between Taikang State and the Black Sun King. "Follow me," on the east line. With the last scream of an ancient giant abruptly ending, their battle was over. All 200 giants were eliminated. However, the cost was unspeakably heavy. More than 200 nascent soul middle-late stage elites were reduced to just 200. This was not far from the west line. Fortunately, of the 1,000 nascent soul early-stage army, over 800 remained. Casualties primarily occurred when a dozen giants broke into the rear battle, resulting in over 100 casualties. Overall, the East Line performed significantly better than the West Line army. It's worth noting that the East Line faced two battle groups. The smaller casualties compared to the West Line were crucially due to Jiang Fan's timely slaying of the Golden Giant King and Fire Giant King, joining the fight, slaughtering numerous surrounding ancient giants. Otherwise, the East Line wouldn't be just casualties. It would be complete annihilation. The Bodhisattva arrived. He glanced at the remaining forces on the East Line, a trace of gratification flowing in his eyes, and pressed his palms together. "Amitabha, dear masters, you have worked hard. Master Jiang is waiting for us at the battlefield for the final battle. Follow me." Everyone drew strength. They understood the final showdown had arrived. 400 ancient giants against over 300 nascent soul middle-late stage, plus 1,300 nascent soul early-stage elites. Judging from the previous battle-loss ratio, if it were just two armies facing off, it would undoubtedly result in a major defeat for the human clan. Unless the human clan's divinity transformation realm could intervene, like Jiang Fan did before, only then would there be hope to reverse the battle. However, the situation might be just the opposite. Because, on the human clan side, comprehensively counting, there were only heavenly listening Bodhisattva, Heart Demon Venerable, Evil Crow Venerable, and Jiang Fan, at most adding the mysterious war corpse capable of slaying giant kings from the Giant family. While the giant side had Stone Giant King, Shadow Giant King, Soul Giant King, Sand Giant King, and the Giant King of Transparent Star. And within the Forbidden Land, the yet unrevealed mysterious Giant King. 5 versus 6. What does the human clan have to win? Decree everyone's heart sank a little. In the decisive battle, Taikang State fears total annihilation. The sect behind them, the boundless homeland, and all the beings pinning their hopes on them, will fall under the iron hooves of the ancient giants. Sanking Mountain Dao leader Xuanyi, clutching his bleeding severed arm, gritted his teeth and said, "What is there to fear? It's just death." Everyone cast complex looks. Sanking Mountain is the most disliked sect among the 7 major sects of the 3-god sect. Using its status as the largest alchemy sect, it has often oppressed others, from the distant vast sea to nearby small and medium sects, who has not suffered from it. But in today's battle, Sanking Mountain has earned some respect. Their bravery rivals that of the Fire Worship Sect and White Horse Temple. Dao leader Xuanyi fought courageously, using soul techniques to kill several 7 estuarine giants. "Why are you looking at me?" Xuanyi sneered coldly. "What, is Jiang Fan the only one in the world with courage? Are we Sanking Mountain here just to waste time and resources?" Saying this, he turned to look at the Sanking Mountain disciples around him, most of whom were injured and looked dispirited. His eyebrows furrowed, and he snapped, "Don't act as if you're half dead. Even if you die, die on the battlefield, and don't let others believe Sanking Mountain is only strong internally. Let's go." The dispirited Sanking Mountain disciples found renewed vigor. "You say Sanking Mountain is fat and lazy. I have no words, but anyone who dares call us cowards, I'll fight them. Let's go and prove ourselves on the battlefield. The Dao leader is right, it's death either way, what's there to fear?" The Sanking Mountain disciples erupted with powerful fighting spirit, marching mightily toward the Forbidden Land. deciding the outcome of a difficult war. Apart from the right time and place, morale is crucial. The more desperate times are, the more important morale becomes. Historically, in battles won by the few against the many, the disadvantaged side's morale is always exuberant. And a Tao leader who leads by example has an unparalleled effect on boosting morale. The fire worship sect leader snorted. These damn dogs, acting like flies, now turned into proper humans. Anyone from the fire worship sect willing to be outdone by Sanking Mountain, leave now and don't disgrace the sect. For those unwilling, follow me. With a wave of his arm, the fire worship sect members instantly became spirited. What a joke, as if I'd let Sanking Mountain beat us. Ridiculous. When has Sanking Mountain ever compared to the fire worship sect? Let's go and see who kills more giants. Master Puguang of White Horse Temple, with palms together, said, Amitabha, finding one's way back from loss, there's no greater virtue. Sanking Mountain Tao leader, detained by Master Jiang for 2 months, influenced by him, has become enlightened. Master Jiang, truly a chosen Buddha son by the Bodhisattva, pity he won't join Buddhism. With a smiling expression, he led the remaining monks of White Horse Temple to follow. The Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion Master also wiped the blood off his mouth, counted the number of his pavilion members. A trace of sorrow passed through his eyes. They were one short. He tried not to think about who had fallen, focusing solely on the imposing ancient giants instead, saying, Jiang Fan is waiting for us. Let's go. Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion did not need a morale boost, because Jiang Fan was their greatest source of morale. As long as he was there, their spirit was unstoppable. The Sand Giant King watched the east and west lines of the allied forces quickly converge. Squinting his vertical eyes, he sinisterly said, These suicidal insects! Not a single sect deserted. Except for those severely injured and unable to move, lying on the ground, all who had battle power joined in. They faced 6 giant kings and 400 ancient giants. This was an unequivocal death trap. They were facing their inevitable demise. Yet no one flinched. He felt for the first time, Central Earth might not be the holy land of legends passed down by generations of giants. The beings here resisted far more fiercely than rumors suggested. The sole giant king's voice also grew heavy. A hunting battle turned into a decisive battle. Taikang states will exceed expectations. Soon after, his gaze turned cold. But precisely because of this, not one of them can be left alive. If one escapes, it will influence many weak beings to resist. If a group escapes, intense resistance will emerge everywhere across Taikang State. The century-long war from 1,000 years ago will reappear. The Shadow Giant King said sinisterly, Is this why the Superior chose to stay put? They hadn't acted yet, giving the human clan the chance for a decisive battle. To prevent them from scattering and forming guerrilla warfare, under the watchful eyes of 6 giant kings and 400 ancient giants. The human clan's eastern and western armies finally joined forces. The 3 god sects, 7 major religions, and 78 small to medium sects all gathered. The Heart Demon Venerable, Evil Crow Venerable, and Bodhisattva stood at the forefront. Jian Lanjiang stood behind them with battle corpses. Jiang Fan stood atop the light shield, his gaze locked onto the sole giant king. Their forces were poised against each other. The sky was filled with rolling, bloody clouds, the bloody air blowing across the silent battlefield with the long wind of the wilderness. The silence of 10,000 steeds, murderous intent flowing everywhere. The earth of the decisive battle was deathly silent. Both sides stared firmly at each other. One side wanted to devour the other wanted to annihilate their opponent. This is a battle for survival, only one side will prevail. As both sides wore intent brewed to the maximum and the air itself felt terrifyingly tense. Deep in the forbidden land, a cold voice rang out. Feudal struggle. When our Black Sun King descends, who among you can survive? These words shook the allied forces. Indeed, the real fear of the Black Sun Royal Court isn't the current giant kings and ancient giant soldiers. It's the 5-star giant king who rules the royal court. So what if they win today's battle? Once the 5-star giant king arrives, it's still a dead end. This is destined to be a feudal resistance. Even the venerables showed slight changes in expression. Their mentality had shifted somewhat. Then why hasn't he descended? On the light shield's peak, Jiang Fan's cold voice resonated across the scene. If he could descend, would you all have suffered such defeat? Everyone awakened. If the Black Sun King could come, he would have long since arrived. He's likely being delayed by the Red Sleeve Usura King Jiang Fan has contacted. The Heart Demon Venerable also realized the intention of the Giant Kings, snorted. trying to use words to shatter our morale. Dream on. And even if he could descend, what then? It's death either way. Dragging a group of ancient giants with us isn't dying more gloriously. The nascent soul army members quickly became clear-headed. Whether the Black Sun King descends or not, they will die. Is it an ignoble death or a glorious sacrifice taking down enemies? Is there even a choice to be made? In an instant, the sinking morale surged again. Within the Forbidden Land, a pair of sharp eyes turned towards Jiang Fan. Clearly angered by him sabotaging their plan, a heavy voice snorted. The Black Sun King commands. Anyone who kills Jiang Fan, their sect will be exempt from hunting for generations. Land trembled. A ball of golden light flew out. It was a gold seal the size of a fist, engraved with the head of an ancient giant. For the powerful figures of Taikang State, this is not unfamiliar. In the heavenly realm, those among the Asura clan who recognize the ancient giants as their masters have this seal imprinted on them. With this seal, ancient giants would not kill them by sensing their aura. However, the golden seal before their eyes carried an aura that made one's heart jump. Even the stone giant king and others showed expressions of awe. From within the Forbidden Land, the voice of the giant king echoed. This seal was requested by the Black Sun King from the Central Emperor. With this seal, no giant king would dare to touch you a single bit. The human side inevitably stirred up. Central Emperor. Could it be the giant emperor of the Central Tribe? Would that be equivalent to our sage of the human clan? With this seal, ordinary ancient giants indeed would not dare to make a move. This really is a death exemption token. The key is, it can even benefit the sect. Heart Demon Venerable's expression drastically changed. Jiang Fan, how much does the giant emperor hate him to personally bestow such a thing? Moreover, this blatantly aims to divide the divinity transformation realm of the human clan. Because with Jiang Fan's strength, the only threat to him would be the divinity transformation realm ones. He decisively shouted, "Stop trying to sow discord among us. So what if you're free from hunting? What's the point of having only our 10,000 tribulations holy temple left after all sentient beings in Taikang State are wiped out? Become a traitor to the human clan, a disgrace to Central Earth. Is it meaningful to survive miserably?" Heavenly listening Bodhisattva clasped his hands together and said, "The White Horse Temple only saves people, does not harm them. All the monks are like this." Feng Yuan sect also snorted. Our great Yin sect also disdained to cling to survival sparingly. With the two divinity transformation realms speaking out, everyone woke up. With Central Earth destroyed, what use is the death exemption token? However, one divinity transformation venerable actually hesitated. Heart Demon Venerable stared at Evil Crow Venerable coldly and said, "Evil Crow, are you that afraid of dying?" Everyone looked at this Evil Crow Venerable collectively, their gazes filled with undisguised discontent. The previous battle was so fierce, yet this venerate from Taikang State acted like he was uninvolved. Jiang Wuya fell, and he was indifferent. On the east and west battlefield fronts, the human clan suffered heavy casualties, and he was also indifferent. Now, with the ancient giants throwing the bait of a death exemption token, he doesn't refuse. Does he still count as a divinity transformation venerable of Central Earth? Which side is he on? Feeling the anger from everyone, Evil Crow Venerable spoke calmly. "Don't I need you to teach me the principle of when the lips are gone, the teeth are cold? Enough idle talk, let's go all out in battle with the giants." He swept his gaze, locked onto the most seriously injured Shadow Giant King. Eyeing fiercely, he said, "Time for me to test the strength of the Heavenly Giant King." Swish. His silhouette vanished on the spot, charging towards the Shadow Giant King. And his action undoubtedly turned the tension into an explosive battle. Heart Demon Venerable cursed under his breath for being shameless. Actually choosing the Giant King critically injured by the heavenly listening Bodhisattva. Yet, since Evil Crow Venerable made the move, they could only follow suit. He raised his voice and shouted, "Kill!" The Human Race Alliance army hesitated no longer, moving forward collectively. It was still the nascent soul middle-late stage leading the charge, with the nascent soul early stage restraining from behind. The ancient giants also moved. From the depths of the Forbidden Land, the Giant King spoke coldly, "Leave no one alive." These words were tantamount to a command to commence the battle. The 400 towering giants, silent as mountains, let out a roar akin to a sea calling. Together they drew their wolf-fang clubs, treading on the ground, charging with terrifying killing intent. The four Giant Kings, eyes filled with murderous intent, leaped into action. The Shadow Giant King glared viciously at Evil Crow Venerable, You dare treat me like a soft target? Do you think you're qualified? The stone giant king glared at Heart Demon Venerable, snorting. Let's continue. The sand giant king prepared to turn and attack Jiang Fan. Yet a Buddha light blocked him. Heavenly listening Bodhisattva said calmly, Master Sha, turn back. The sand giant king snorted. Seeking death, he transformed into a shadow and charged forward. The giant king with transparent stars on his forehead narrowed his eyes. This fellow's strength is unknown. Let's attack together. The shadow giant king nearly perished at the Bodhisattva's hands. It's better to be cautious. Jian Lanjiang's eyes suddenly flashed. He flew to the Bodhisattva's side, placing down the battle corpse on his back. He said, Bodhisattva, let me lend you a hand. If I fall, pass the battle corpse on to the descendants of the Jian family. If there's no one left in the Jian family, then leave it to Jiang Fan. Bodhisattva nodded. Good, only the soul giant king did not move, spoke without looking back. Looks like you were waiting for me. Without turning, he could feel Jiang Fan's gaze filled with killing intent. At the peak of the light shield, Jiang Fan patted Jiang Wuya and said, First, avenge you. Then protect this world for you. After speaking, the space power around him exploded and he disappeared in the next moment. A stripe of three-color divine rainbow struck. The soul giant king stomped the ground with both feet, disappearing at almost instantaneous speed from the original spot. The shadow he left behind was shattered by the three-color divine rainbow. But before it hit land, the three-color divine rainbow struck again, swiftly stabbing. The soul giant king pulled out the wolf fang club, swung it heavily, smashing the space before him into collapse. The three-color divine rainbow's trajectory twisted, brushing past the soul giant king's side. This cultivation technique shouldn't be something the nascent soul realm can infinitely trigger, right? He scoured to the not-far Jiang Fan, discovering his opponent's mouth filled with several spirit pills. Jiang Fan crushed an anti-void spirit pill, nascent soul power rapidly recovering. He coldly snorted. As long as I can kill you, that's enough. Swish. The three-colored divine rainbow returned, stabbing again. The soul giant king furrowed his brows, dodging while the star on his forehead rotated suddenly. A terrifying soul power surged out. Jiang Fan also moved. Heavenly phenomenon! Several gray chains descended soundlessly, coiling around the soul giant king's body. The revolving star was forcibly halted for a moment, taking advantage of this opportunity. The three-color divine rainbow struck again. The soul giant king's face slightly changed, feeling troublesome. This endless sword array, even he felt it difficult. Humph! He snorted heavily, shaking off the chains, forcibly rotating the star. A terrifying sweep of soul power swept the surroundings. Jiang Fan was struck, immediately feeling his vision go black, falling into a momentary paralysis. The three-colored divine rainbow, uncontrolled, fell down. The soul giant king immediately lunged forward with terrifying murder intent, a finger crushing towards Jiang Fan's head, indifferently said, After all, only a nascent soul realm, too weak on the soul level. However, just as the finger was about to crush, Jiang Fan suddenly opened his eyes, filled with coldness. For dealing with you enough? From his sleeve, a piece of ash fell. It turned out to be wish paper. Betrayal slash. The three top-grade spirit swords that had already fallen to the ground unexpectedly regrouped. They then transformed into a three-color divine rainbow, fiercely stabbing toward the soul giant king. The latter's heart was startled. He deployed the giant king's powerful ability once more, tapping his toes and leaping up. This ability, akin to instantaneous movement, was enough to dodge the terrifying attack of the three-colored divine rainbow. A bizarre scene appeared. As the soul giant king leapt into the air, the shockwave from the battle between the Bodhisattva and the sand giant king radiated over unexpectedly. It forcibly pressed him back down after his leap. The three-colored divine rainbow sliced past with a swift sound, instantly severing his legs. Hiss! The soul giant king, having lost his legs, fell to the ground suddenly. His face was full of confusion. What wish did you make? This scene was extremely similar to being entangled by misfortune. He should have been able to dodge it, yet he was inexplicably hit. Moreover, the strike meant to kill Jiang Fan only paralyzed him for an instant due to misfortune. But the misfortune affecting him and the sand giant king had already been secretly lifted by the mysterious giant king in the Forbidden Land. How could there still be misfortune? Wait. The soul giant king suddenly felt a faint pain in his abdomen. His belly was swelling like a balloon. His powerful soul scanned the area and turned pale with fright. Breath soil and another piece of misfortune sage's broken bone. Did you wish for both to be moved into my body? His words were prompt and decisive. He immediately formed a knife with his hand and inserted it into his body. He grabbed the misfortune broken bone and the breath soil that had yet to disperse throughout his body. The swelling of his abdomen ceased its change. Having just escaped the shadow of death, a shadow appeared overhead. Jiang Fan was holding a jade box in his hand. Inside it was a broken cloth fragment, the very piece that the Black Dragon Venerable had used to crush space and create a void rift. Though its divine power was lost, it still had a weight formidable enough to intimidate even the heavenly human 5 declines great venerate. Crushing the Soul Giant King was no problem at all. The Soul Giant King's vertical eye throbbed with wild panic. His instincts told him the cloth fragment was extremely dangerous. No, he slapped the ground with both palms, using them as legs to vault away. Speed was still close to instantaneous movement. Bang! Just as he jumped, a black tripod engraved with 9 dragons suddenly appeared and smashed into the Soul Giant King's body. He was hit out of his instantaneous movement and rolled several times. Having suffered successive severe injuries, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood and yelled in fury. Wang Chengxiao! He was met with Jiang Fan's cold gaze. Go accompany brother Jiang in the grave, Jiang Fan said coldly. He threw the broken cloth fragment with a flick of his hand, but just then, a shadow behind him flashed with a black remnant. A chilling voice echoed. Kid, you're quite arrogant. What, is there a giant in his shadow? Could it be the Shadow Giant King? Jiang Fan's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately activated the Black Dragon armor. Barely managing to protect himself, a heart-wrenching pain came from his back. A sharp finger attempted to pierce through his back. The Black Dragon armor, having been used several times, was much weaker and couldn't completely block the strike. Yet, it managed to buy an instant. Jiang Fan used a spatial teleportation to escape the fatal blow. Turning his head, he saw a black shadow where he had been quickly condensing into a 20-zhang tall giant. It was the Shadow Giant King. Jiang Fan became secretly angry. He was close to killing the Soul Giant King, but the Shadow Giant King interfered. Wait, he suddenly realized something was off. Wasn't the Shadow Giant King being targeted by the Evil Crow Venerable? Why would the Shadow Giant King join the battlefield? His current appearance certainly didn't look like he had battled with the Evil Crow Venerable. Jiang Fan's heart suddenly sank. Could it be? Before the thought completed, a chilling, hair-raising presence flashed toward him. At the edge of life and death, Jiang Fan decisively used spatial teleportation to avoid it. Simultaneously, he called upon the 5 magnetic Yuan Mountain to shield his back. Clang! Almost simultaneously, a terrifying wind blade struck his back. The majority were blocked by the 5 magnetic Yuan Mountain, carving terrifying cuts on the mountain. A small portion bypassed the 5 magnetic Yuan Mountain and slashed onto Jiang Fan. Jiang Fan's right hand was immediately severed, blood spurting out. The right hand holding the torn piece of cloth flew into the air and was grabbed by a pale hand. The owner of the hand appeared. Evil Crow Venerable. The divine ring at the back of his head pulsated intensely, gathering the black wind blades that attacked Jiang Fan, forming the pattern of a crow before returning to his body's surface. Hehe, you have quite a few good things. Evil Crow Venerable took the jade box in one swoop, greedily scanning the torn piece of cloth inside. Even through the jade box, he could tell the torn piece of cloth was terrifying. Besides, there were also 3 top-grade spirit swords, and that 9 dragon demon tripod, and the 5 magnetic Yuan Mountain that could resist his domain. All were rare treasures in the world. Jiang Fan gasped from the pain, but what he couldn't believe more than the physical pain was that Evil Crow Venerable had betrayed them. Heart Demon Venerable, who was in combat, also noticed this scene. He roared in outrage, "Evil Crow, are you looking for death?" One of the few in Taikang State who reached Divinity Transformation Realm had turned against them. Just when Jiang Fan was about to slay the Soul Giant King, he turned on Jiang Fan. Evil Crow Venerable glanced at Heart Demon Venerable dismissively. "Foolish and reckless, all you do is shout blindly. A wise bird chooses the right tree to perch on, a wise minister chooses the right lord to serve. Don't you understand such simple reasoning? You deserve to be devoured to the bone by the giants." The Shadow Giant King chuckled. "It seems Taikang State still has some people who understand. That golden seal of immunity to death, you are the best choice." In truth, Evil Crow Venerable seemed to pick an easy target to fight. But he had secretly negotiated. When he got the bargain he wanted, he swiftly betrayed. Initially, the divinity transformation realm combat forces were already at a disadvantage of 5 to 6. Now it had become 4 to 7. Heart Demon Venerable was furious, his eyes nearly tearing apart as he said, "Evil Crow, you are a disgrace. You are the historical sinner of our Taikang." They saw Jiang Fan kill the Soul Giant King, thinking they could reverse the situation. But no one expected Evil Crow Venerable to betray. This left them with no hope at all. Evil Crow Venerable said coldly, "Taikang's destruction or survival, what does it have to do with me? Without me, would you still survive? On the contrary, I can keep the flame burning and further the civilization of Taikang State." As he said this, he looked at Jiang Fan mockingly. "Boy, weren't you stealing women from me back then? Today it's payback time. I will take all your women. I'll have them bear children for me to further the human clan's flame in Taikang State." "Ha ha ha!" Jiang Fan clutched his severed arm, glaring at Evil Crow Venerable. Hatred filled his eyes like the sea. The most hateful in the world aren't always enemies, but a certain kind of people. Betrayers. He gritted his teeth, bit through the heavenly clothes, divine water in his throat, and his severed arm quickly regrew. The heavenly abyss heart in his chest throbbed violently. The heavenly thunder 6 parts suddenly appeared and rapidly united. The 6 parts united again. Evil Crow Venerable sneered, still stubbornly resisting. "Can't you see your predicament?" Whoosh. The Shadow Giant King flashed to his side. Having also used the heavenly clothes' divine water to restore his legs, the Soul Giant King appeared beside Evil Crow Venerable with murderous intent. 2 giant kings and a divinity transformation. Jiang Fan's killing intent rose to the sky, and he shouted, "You are not enough!" Bang! Inside the Forbidden Land, a terrifying explosion was unleashed. The blood clouds in the sky were blasted into a rolling storm. The next moment, before Evil Crow Venerable, Shadow Giant King, and Soul Giant King, a towering figure over 20 zhang tall appeared. A colorful star glimmered at his brow. With a mocking gaze, with me added, "Is it enough?" Fan stared at him. "I knew it was you." The only one capable of silently dispelling the misfortune on the Sand Giant King, and the Soul Giant King was the Luck Giant King. Back then, Jiang Fan was affected by his misfortune and suffered greatly. What surprised Jiang Fan was that the Luck Giant King now had 2 stars on his forehead. He was already the 2-star Giant King. Now Jiang Fan faced 3 Giant Kings, including a divinity transformation realm. One of them was even the 2-star Giant King. Faced with 4, Jiang Fan sighed lightly in his heart. Could it be that my death fate should fall on this day? The Heart Demon Venerable, who also noticed this scene, couldn't help but look up and sadly lament. "Heavens, truly you're not siding with our Taikang State." 4 against 1, even if Jiang Fan had 3 heads and 6 arms, he would perish. Originally, there was hope for Jiang Fan to kill a giant king first and turn the tide. But heavenly calculations were inferior to human calculations. At the most critical moment, a traitor emerged among them. The Bodhisattva also looked over, silently forming seals with his hands, murmuring, "Second great wish, salvation." Jian Lanjiang was also filled with desolation. The flame of hope was before them, yet it was blown out completely. Seeing Jiang Fan desperately needing help, he, like the Heart Demon Venerable and Bodhisattva, was also unable to intervene and could only watch him fall. Meanwhile, the allied human clan also saw Jiang Fan's peril. If Jiang Fan falls, Taikang State will lose all hope. In the 10,000 Tribulations Holy Temple's battle group, Song Lingyu bit her silver teeth and took out a domain jade scroll belonging to the Heart Demon Venerable. Facing the charging ancient giant army, she said solemnly, "If I die but Jiang Fan survives, tell him to continue taking care of my disciple." The master of Wanjai Temple was shocked. He understood that Song Lingyu's move meant she was about to go mad. The madness of nascent souls in Central Earth is different from the cultivation systems of the Hell Realm and Heavenly Realm. The 9 ancient saints designed it specifically to target the ancient giants. Once madness sets in, it grants the ability to surpass ancient giants of the same realm. Now, with 400 ancient giants ahead, for the Human Race Alliance army to win, madness is the only hope. Simultaneously, if the main battlefield sees a significant advantage for the human race, it will attract a giant king. This would alleviate pressure on Jiang Fan. Song Lingyu's goal was precisely this. Thinking of this, the master of Wanjai Temple looked at the director of the madhouse, Xianxia Shangren. The two exchanged a glance, and Xianxia Shangren decisively took out 5 individual coffins. Each of them contained powerful madness surging within. Kept in check by the coffins, they could not break free and harm others. They were the 9 aperture nascent souls of the 10,000 tribulations holy temple, also the source of hope for the new divinity transformation venerable of the 10,000 tribulations holy temple. Now, to withstand the ancient giants, for Taikang state, asking them to act was the only choice. Send the seniors. Fourth, the master of Wan Jai Temple's voice trembled with sadness. The mad 9 aperture nascent souls charged into the giants. They could slaughter numerous ancient giants, but their unconscious selves would ultimately fall to the relentless group attack of the ancient giants, just like that 9 aperture nascent soul senior on the heavenly mountain battlefield, who killed 10 ancient giants but perished in the end. Sending them forth meant sending them to their deaths. Xianxia Shangren's eyes reddened, kneeling and bowing before the 5 coffins. He lamented sorrowfully. We juniors are incompetent, unable to protect the lands. Shamelessly ask 5 seniors to accompany me. To die, finishing his words, he rose with resolve shining in his eyes. With a wave of his hand, the 5 coffins soared into the air. Without looking back, he said, Hall Master, 10,000 tribulations holy temple is yours. With a swoosh, he and the 5 coffins charged ahead, reaching the towering ancient giant army first. Go! With tears in his eyes, the 5 coffins flew into the air above the ancient giants. As explosive booms sounded, the sealed 5-9 aperture nascent souls appeared. A terrifying madness erupted forth. Some of their madness was numbness, rendering themselves numb and causing surrounding people to follow suit. Some madness was slaughter, killing any living being and driving nearby creatures into a mindless killing state. Other madness meant blindness, losing their own sight, making nearby creatures blind too. Their appearance alerted the ancient giants. Wolf fang clubs filled with destructive force were flung towards them. Plop! 1-9 aperture nascent soul, unguarded, was smashed into a blood mist by a wolf fang club. The other 4-9 aperture nascent souls fell among the ancient giants scattered everywhere. The slaughter path 9 aperture nascent soul, with unrivaled might, immediately decimated one ancient giant. Fearsome madness affected surrounding ancient giants, turning them towards slaughtering him and each other. In the blink of an eye, 8 ancient giants fell, and the madness continued to spread quickly. Running ancient giants now faced a localized chaos, greatly impacting the entire army's charge. Angry ancient giants furiously hurled wolf fang clubs, smashing the slaughterpath 9 aperture nascent soul. The numbing 9 aperture nascent soul, landing, rendered numerous ancient giants immobile, falling en masse. Unexpected, rear ancient giants stumbled or trampled over the corpses of the immobilized, causing chaos and casualties. Furious ancient giants decisively hurled wolf fang clubs, pounding it into a pulp. Similar localized chaos played out in various parts among the giants. They killed a minimum of 3, a maximum of 9. In a fleeting moment, they caused over 20 deaths among ancient giants, and disrupted the ancient giants' charge. But the end was equally tragic. They all died without a complete corpse. Xianxia Shangren's tears rolled down, his eyes reddened. 5 seniors, I'm coming to join you. As the director of the madhouse, how could he bear watching the seniors he shared days and nights with sacrifice alone? He transformed into a streak of heavenly thunder, charged into the ancient giants, and roared thunderously. Beasts, now you're afraid? The people of 10,000 tribulations holy temple aren't so easily eaten. Among the majestic mountains, thunder light flashed repeatedly. Finally, like a firefly in the dark night, it suddenly extinguished. Xianxia Shangren perished. Xianxia, the master of Wan Jai Temple, cried out in sorrow with tears in his old eyes. Song Lingyu's eyes too streamed with tears. She leapt up and said in the air, the seniors have all gone. It's my turn, and me. Another atorifious nascent soul senior of 10,000 tribulations holy temple flew out. And I'm coming too. Let's go together, give the juniors a glimmer of hope. The atorifious nascent souls of 10,000 tribulations holy temple collectively grasped the heart demon venerable's domain and rose into the air. Knowing the blaze ahead, they will like moths flying into the flame, simply to offer the human race behind them a sliver of hope, to obtain a path of life for Jiang Fan trapped in this hopeless situation. Holy temple has gone. How long do we, the old monsters of the great Yin sect, plan to hide? An elder of the great Yin sect with an atorifious nascent soul unlocked the corpse bag, releasing all the Yin corpses. In his hand, he also held a jade talisman capable of inducing madness. It's all about the 3 God sect, and our great Yin sect must not fall behind. Another atorifious nascent soul expert of the great Yin sect stepped forward. The 5 seniors from 10,000 Tribulations' holy temple have all gone. I suppose the few old bones of the great Yin sect aren't willing to admit defeat. An elder, carrying 6-9 aperture nascent souls sealed in Yin Qi, headed towards the battlefield. White Horse Temple. Master Puguang waved the Buddha bowl in his hand, and 7 first-grade Vajras shrouded in Buddha light flew out from it. He ascended into the air, gazing at the mighty ancient giants, saying, "If I do not enter hell, who will enter hell? The 2nd-grade monk of White Horse Temple go with this humble monk." The 3-god sect raced ahead, willing to expend their sect's foundation to join the fierce battle. This is truly a war to annihilate sects, to exterminate clans. The atorifious nascent souls of Sanking Mountain, along with several seniors, follow me to death. Fire Worship Sect, atorifious nascent soul, 9 aperture nascent soul, follow my sect to death. Myriad Phenomena Void Realm, follow me to death. Heaven and Sea Pavilion, where are the brave ones? Follow me to death. 3-god sect, 7 major sects, dozens of sects. The leaders of each sect took the lead, with atorifious nascent souls and 9 aperture nascent souls rushing toward catastrophe. Voices ringing out, "Follow me to death," intertwined and reverberating to the skies. Like a tragic song, like a poignant last note. Echoing between heaven and earth, echoing in human hearts. The history of later generations will never forget the life and death crisis of Taikang State. A group of human clan martyrs cried out the tragic sound of "Follow me to death," rushing towards the ancient giants like moths to a flame, creating the most magnificent, most glorious moment in 1,000 years of history. The Human Race Alliance Army was completely moved. Be it in the late-stage nascent soul or the nascent soul early stage, they were all inspired with boundless courage. They stirred up clouds of dust, shouting earth-shattering and sky-shaking cries, charging towards the giants. One after another, 9 aperture nascent souls were thrown into the center of the giants, and one after another, atorifious nascent souls entered madness by themselves alongside sect leaders. Their self-sacrificial attacks caused unforeseen casualties on the ancient giant army. Within the giant ranks, battle fires were ignited everywhere. The giants at the front charged forward, while those in the rear and middle were caught in small skirmishes. The overwhelming confrontation became 100 giants in the front facing the entire human clan army pressing forward. And they were all fearlessly daring, akin to a maddened army. At the moment of collision, they fell on both sides in numbers. But the human clan army pressed forward with an absolute superiority in numbers. The 100 vanguard giants were swiftly isolated and surrounded, and casualties soared. Meanwhile, the middle and rear giants were affected by the madness of the 9 aperture and atorifious nascent souls, thrown into chaos, unable to provide support. What was initially a sure defeat began to show signs of reversal under the selfless sacrifice of the 9 aperture and atorifious nascent souls. Even the divinity transformation realm and the giant king fighting from afar were shocked. Heart Demon Venerable's eyes turned slightly red. The years of accumulation of 9 aperture and atorifice in the 10,000 Tribulations' holy temple were all spent in this battle. He was overcome with grief, shouting, "Well done. Everyone from 10,000 Tribulations' holy temple is exemplary. As a venerate, I must not fall behind." With his eyes full of fury, he glared at the stone giant king. "I will use your head to commemorate them." The Bodhisattva also clasped his hands, showing compassion. "Amitabha, may you enter the blissful world free from pain and disaster." Jian Lanjiang's elderly eyes were filled with tears as he saw members of the Jain family's 9 aperture and atorifice nascent souls also charging into the giants. His old tears fell. Trembling, he said, "My Jian family members did not bring shame to their ancestors." With these words, the 2 of them simultaneously killed the 2 giants in front of them. The Luck Giant King, the Soul Giant King, and the Shadow Giant King were also shaken by the bravery of the human clan. Such self-sacrifice for the hope of others is impossible to occur among ancient giants. They couldn't comprehend it, yet they feared it from the depths of their hearts. Evil Crow Venerable's face was filled with gloom. The moth-like self-sacrifice of the 9 aperture and atorifice nascent souls from various sects contrasted against his betrayal for survival, like loud slaps across his face, making him extremely embarrassed. Why didn't anyone surrender like him? Man must look out for himself or face heaven's wrath. Was he wrong? Seeing the giants were at a disadvantage, his heart began to sink. He finally made up his mind to betray the human clan. If the human clan wins, would there still be a place for him in Central Earth? His eyes filled with malice, he said, "What are you waiting for? Isn't a giant king going to assist the giants?" The Soul Giant King resolutely said, "I will go. My soul origin covers a wide range. The involvement of a giant king could definitely turn the battlefield around." Moreover, the extremely dangerous Soul Giant King, the Luck Giant King, nodded. "Go. We should also swiftly and decisively handle Wang Chengxiao. Once Wang Chengxiao is killed, they will join the battlefield and eliminate the remaining Human Race Alliance army effortlessly. With the situation settled, they could return their focus to wiping out the remaining divinity transformation realm, then the battle in Taikang State would come to an end." Whoosh! However, Jiang Fan surrounded himself with a burst of thunder light. His eyes whirled with two streaks of thunder light. A thunder lotus floated beneath his feet. Thunder dragon circled around him. A heart formed by thunderbolt pulsated in his chest. A thunder sword materialized behind him. A Taikai yin-yang diagram swayed atop his head. Heavenly thunder 6 parts reappeared. "You wish!" Jiang Fan shouted loudly. The brave deeds of the sects deeply moved him as well. Moreover, he understood that the actions of everyone were meant to divert a giant king from the battlefield for him. Seniors, familiar or unfamiliar, using their flesh and blood, their lives, paved a path of survival for him. If he didn't pacify the giants, how could he face them underground? He must gamble his life to the utmost. "Unite the 6 parts!" As he shouted up to the sky, a thunder pool formed in the sky. Countless thunderbolts poured down, forming a 10-foot-tall thunder giant around him. His cultivation also crazily surged, reaching the breadth of the divinity transformation realm in an instant. Evil Crow Venerable was startled, suddenly recalling Jiang Fan's battle accomplishments in Heavenly Heritage City, and fearfully shouted, "Be careful, he might have achieved the 5-kill Dharma Realm half-giant battle merits with this technique." The Luck Giant King's eyes narrowed, decisively activating the source on his forehead, shouting, "Take action together, don't give him a chance to live." Jiang Fan was already dangerous. Now with his cultivation suddenly surging to the divinity transformation realm, he's even more perilous. Upon hearing this, the Shadow Giant King, the departing Soul Giant King, and Evil Crow Venerable simultaneously activated their sources and domains. 3 giant kings, 1 divinity transformation, all launched their strongest attack. How could Jiang Fan stand alone? Fan never thought of surviving by clinging. The origins of Luck, Soul, Shadow, and the Evil Crow domain did not give Jiang Fan any time to react, invading his body simultaneously. Even a venerate of the heavenly human second decline would find it hard to escape death. The Evil Crow Venerable's lips curled into a sneer, envisioning Jiang Fan's body being smashed to pieces in his mind. Crack, yet an unusual crisp shattering sound abruptly echoed from within Jiang Fan. An ice crystal butterfly turned into fragments, drifting out from inside him. This was the butterfly gifted by the Ice Heart Venerate. It could nullify the effects of a domain. He once asked Ice Heart Venerate if it was also effective against origins. Ice Heart Venerate replied, "All paths lead to the same goal. Since it can nullify domains, it likely can nullify origins as well." Now the test proves she was correct. Seizing the moment before they could react, Jiang Fan launched a decisive counterattack. Soul-capturing lock. This soul-capturing lock, originating from the soul-cutting 3 forms, could seal souls not exceeding more than a level above oneself. Limited by its level, which is only high-level Earth level, it's only effective against the nascent soul realm. But now Jiang Fan is in the divinity transformation realm, and his soul has reached this level. Upon execution, it would still have some effect. And the target he aimed to lock down was precisely the Luck Giant King. This most threatening existence, as long as it's sealed for just a few breaths, would be sufficient. Not good. The Luck Giant King's eyelids twitched fiercely, immediately sensing the imminent danger. In a critical moment, he swept out his long tongue, pulling the Evil Crow Venerable in front of him. "Ah, what are you doing?" The Evil Crow Venerable was taken aback, and before he could react, he was struck by the soul-capturing lock. He lost control of his body on the spot. Furious and outraged, he couldn't believe he was used as a human shield. He had just saved the Soul Giant King and was a hero among the ancient giants. How could they do this to him? All because of Jiang Fan. If he died, wouldn't it be fine? Why struggle so hard? The evil crow venerable's heart was full of rage as he stared at Jiang Fan with his soul, wanting to witness his death. The escaped Luck Giant King would not spare him. Indeed, the vertical eye of the Luck Giant King contained a chilling gaze. Indeed, I cannot give you any chance. The origin between his brows activated once again. The Soul Giant King and Shadow Giant King also simultaneously activated their origins. They were also scared. This person was truly too dangerous. Whiz. Jiang Fan, having failed in one strike, was prepared and instantly teleported away. The three origins missed their targets simultaneously. The Luck Giant King secretly deemed it troublesome, as Jiang Fan, having reached the divinity transformation realm, also possessed the ability to teleport. No longer someone easy to crush by hand. His brows jumped even more as suddenly an orange lotus flower descended above their three heads. The lotus rapidly expanded, the destructive thunderbolts swiftly surged. The Luck Giant King's face slightly changed, shouting, "Get out of the way!" The Soul Giant King and Shadow Giant King jumped aside together. Barely dodging, the lotus blasted open, transforming into destructive thunderbolts that swept the surroundings. The Shadow Giant King, injured by the Bodhisattva, was slower to move and got one leg blown off on the spot. The Soul Giant King hurried over to support him. Who knew? Beside him, a three-colored divine rainbow silently emerged, stabbing toward his body. "Watch out! He is invisible!" the Shadow Giant King urgently reminded. The Soul Giant King's face changed dramatically, decisively releasing a powerful soul attack, sweeping the surroundings. Soul-shocking stab? But this no longer held the fatal threat it initially did to Jiang Fan, now in the divinity transformation realm. A single soul-shocking stab dispersed the incoming soul attack. The Soul Giant King's pupils contracted fiercely, his eyes full of the shadow of the three-colored divine rainbow. This strike he could not dodge. At the very last moment, the Luck Giant King leaped over, the origin between his brows spinning rapidly. Misfortune, the mysterious fluctuation attached to the three-colored divine rainbow. What was supposed to be a sure-kill strike strangely deviated from its trajectory, brushing past the Soul Giant King's shoulder and cutting an endless crack into the earth. The Soul Giant King broke out in a cold sweat. Jiang Fan, in the divinity transformation realm, was truly terrifying. 4 against 1, he managed to imprison one and nearly killed another. The Shadow Giant King sneered while surveying the surrounding. "With the esteemed Luck Giant King, you can't do anything to us. Your temporary divinity transformation trick surely won't last long, right?" As long as they coped with it, awaited Jiang Fan's cultivation to fall, it would be his death day. Who knew, in the Shadow Giant King's ears, a voice sounding chilling to the bone echoed. "Really? Flawless domain?" A mysterious domain suddenly swept across the Shadow Giant King's body. In a flash, the Shadow Giant King realized. Jiang Fan's attack on the Soul Giant King was just a feint. He knew if he attacked anyone, the Luck Giant King would step in to stop it. So his true target wasn't the Soul Giant King, but him, the Shadow Giant King. His heart instantly hung high, harboring a slight luck, hoping Jiang Fan's so-called flawless domain was just an auxiliary type of domain. As the domain entered his body, he did not detect any danger. While confused in the distance, the Luck Giant King and Soul Giant King both had their pupils contract sharply. They looked with horror at the Shadow Giant King's broken leg. In their gaze, the injury on the Shadow Giant King's leg peculiarly spread toward the thigh and abdomen. In the blink of an eye, the right leg rotted away, leaving not even bones. The delayed pain finally caused the Shadow Giant King to let out an uncontrollable scream of agony. "Ah, my leg, what's wrong with my leg? What kind of domain is this?" He panicked, hurriedly lifting his hand to cut off his right hip, trying to stop the spread of the injury. But it was not any kind of venom. As long as there's an injury, it would infinitely expand. The injury of the severed hip rapidly spread toward the abdomen, chest, and head. In the blink of an eye, he began rotting all over. Like a paper figure tossed into the fire, rapidly burning away. He clutched his chest, then his head, begging the Luck Giant King in terror for rescue. "Help me quickly! I don't want to die!" Poof. Before his voice could fall, the injury spread throughout his body. His flesh and blood all rotted away, leaving not a trace, turning into nothingness. Even the large skeletal frame disintegrated in mid-fall, turning into fragments of white bone ash. Before hitting the ground like snowflakes, they all melted away. A giant king, simply due to a leg injury, was forced into oblivion by the flawless domain. This scene stunned both the Luck Giant King and Soul Giant King. The Luck Giant King murmured gravely, "This domain is too overbearing and too extreme." He couldn't fathom what price Jiang Fan must pay to wield such an extreme path. The Soul Giant King felt a chill down his spine. He vaguely felt that Jiang Fan killed the Shadow Giant King first to torment him, to let him die in despair amid fear, to achieve the purpose of avenging Jiang Wuya. He shuddered, forcing out a fierce exterior and timid interior, saying, "Lord Luck Giant King, hold nothing back. He is a grave threat to our ancient giants." The Luck Giant King deeply agreed. Such a terrifying domain is definitely the nemesis of the Giant Kings. Glancing around, unable to detect Jiang Fan's presence, he decisively smashed a pocket at his waist with one palm. Inside was a piece of black broken bone. It exuded the origin from the five-star Giant King. Foresee the future. In the Luck Giant King's mind, he immediately captured several fragments of future images about Jiang Fan. Among them was one where Jiang Fan, one breath later, attacked the Soul Giant King fatally. He wore a vicious expression, and without a word, spat out a long tongue that precisely stabbed toward the back of the Soul Giant King. Coldly scolding, "It's over." Her husband Wump, a dull sound came from the void behind the Soul Giant King. A spray of blood burst forth. The no-self dust-cleansing technique Jiang Fan employed was shattered, revealing his figure. His chest was pierced through by the long tongue, exuding traces of pain on his face, but his eyes showed no sign of resignation. Instead, they were filled with even more killing intent. In his right hand, he held a 9-colored crystal. It was the killing device bestowed by the white-robed skeleton from the mysterious stone cone of the 10,000 Tribulations' holy temple. This item could cause harm even in the virtuous realm. Jiang Fan had kept it all along, intended to deal with the ultimate enemy, the five-star Giant King. Now it had to be activated ahead of time. Along with the Luck Giant King and the Soul Giant King, they were all going down the road together. The Luck Giant King's eyelids twitched, his gaze fixed on the right palm of Jiang Fan, sensing a great danger. His eyes glowed fiercely. He roared low, "Damn it!" His long tongue suddenly coiled, attempting to swallow Jiang Fan into his mouth before he could activate the 9-colored crystal. Jiang Fan wore a smile, offering no resistance. His 5 fingers abruptly exerted force, squeezing the 9-colored crystal until it creaked, just as it was about to shatter. Suddenly, the sky's atmosphere compressed, space trembled violently. A heart-crushing aura exploded forth. Whoosh! A faint yellow silhouette flashed between Jiang Fan and the Luck Giant King. Then black blood splattered. The Luck Giant King's long tongue was severed. Jiang Fan was pulled to the ground steadily by a jade hand around his waist. He turned his head in astonishment. A classically beautiful face, a classic beauty, was right in front of him. Her jade-like face was frosty, glaring at the Luck Giant King with angry eyes, especially seeing the half of the long tongue piercing Jiang Fan's chest. The cold light burst forth even more. She tore off the long tongue, crushing it with her bare hands, coldly saying, "In this world only I am allowed to hurt him. And who do you think you are?" The Luck Giant King painfully retrieved his severed tongue, eyes filled with shock. "True word, Venerable?" When the 3 gods and 1 bodhisattva from Taikang State broke into the heavenly realm, he had seen her and naturally recognized her. To his surprise, True Word Venerable was seriously injured by the Black Sun King and fell into the astral wind. Yet not only was she not dead, she also broke through to the heavenly human 2 declines. Indeed, there were 2 flame marks on the white divine ring at the back of True Word Venerable's head. She finally broke through to the heavenly human 2 declines at the last moment, and arrived on the battlefield just in time. "True words, you broke through to the heavenly human 2 declines." Jiang Fan was dumbfounded. Didn't he poison all of the female spirit fish raised by True Word Venerable? Where did she get the chance to break through to the heavenly human 2 declines? True Word Venerable glared at him, wanting to berate him for being foolish enough to risk his life with a group of giant kings. But seeing his chest wound, the words turned into a caution. "Be careful." She then put Jiang Fan down, her eyes filled with a cold gleam, and charged at the Luck Giant King. "Forbidden true words!" Her domain suddenly spread out. The Luck Giant King's expression slightly changed, quickly activating his origin. "Misfortune!" However, he thought of misfortune, but his thoughts were interrupted. He quickly activated calamity, adversity. Yet each time his thoughts arose, they were blocked by an invisible force. Jiang Fan noticed the clue that after True Word Venerable ascended to the heavenly human 2 declines, her domain underwent changes. Originally, under her domain, one could only speak the truth. Now she could prohibit people from telling the truth, including their inner thoughts. They couldn't either. This basically blocked any actions by the enemy. As long as her domain power was strong enough and she could use it without limit, she could turn her opponent into a motionless target. What was once thought to be an auxiliary type of domain from true word venerable, with no offensive capability. Surprisingly, after reaching the heavenly human 2 declines, the domain made a qualitative leap. Jiang Fan was relieved. She should have no problem dealing with the luck giant king. Thus, Jiang Fan could free up his hands and focus on handling the soul giant king. The thunder power within his heavenly abyss heart was nearly depleted. The divinity transformation realm was about to end. Therefore, he had no hesitation whatsoever. He vanished from the spot with an instantaneous movement. The soul giant king felt a chill creep over his scalp. He couldn't understand how the 4-against-1 scenario just now became a one-on-one with him and Jiang Fan in just a few breaths. Thinking of that terrifying domain, he decisively jumped to dodge. He had to buy time until Jiang Fan's cultivation fell and lost the domain's might. Otherwise, he would die for sure. Fortunately, Jiang Fan's divinity transformation realm would last just an instant. With his jumping speed, he could maintain his distance from Jiang Fan. However, what he never expected was, he heard Jiang Fan's low shout from behind, "You can't escape!" What? The soul giant king couldn't believe his eyes as he looked behind him, only to see Jiang Fan's silhouette emerge from his shadow projected on the ground. Isn't this the shadow giant king's origin? When he looked carefully, an ethereal green eye was slowly receding from Jiang Fan's abdomen. It was the eye of duplication, copying part of the origin from the shadow giant king. Jiang Fan emerged, seized the last bit of his divinity transformation cultivation, and swung down with the divine wood in hand. The soul giant king had no way to avoid it. He could only block it with one hand while activating his soul origin. The arrow that killed Jiang Wuya shot towards Jiang Fan's forehead. Jiang Fan decisively activated the soul-shocking stab. An arrow, a spike, both collided midair. Both were soul attacks at the divinity transformation realm, evenly matched, scattering upon impact. The remnants of the soul's aftermath recoiled onto both of them. The soul giant king immediately felt his head splitting with pain, crying out continuously. Jiang Fan also felt a soul-piercing pain, as if being torn apart, but he gritted his teeth through the excruciating pain, swinging the divine wood. With a muffled thud, the divine wood struck the soul giant king's arm. At that exact moment, the thunder power of the heavenly abyss heart was exhausted, and Jiang Fan was propelled back by the fierce force. He was sent flying hundreds of feet away, crashing out a large pit, coughing blood from his mouth uncontrollably. Yet, the soul giant king, after taking a hit from the divine wood, also tasted the torments of purgatory. This was what Jiang Fan prepared specifically for him. Aero, the soul giant king, held his head, screaming in pain, stomping incessantly to try to alleviate the agony. But the pain deepened. He even lost the strength to stand, collapsing heavily to the ground, twisting and writhing continuously. His massive body made the earth tremble with each impact. Jiang Fan wiped the blood off the corner of his mouth, swallowed a heavenly clothes divine water, and flew over with the divine wood in hand. Feeling Jiang Fan's approach, the soul star on the soul giant king's forehead rotated, attempting to deliver a fatal attack on Jiang Fan. However, the excruciating pain rendered him powerless to resist. The star twirled only twice before stopping. Jiang Fan, without hesitation, struck him hard again, angrily shouting, "What? Keep on killing. Where is the might that descended upon Central Earth? Where was the arrogance when you killed my sworn brother?" The already excruciating soul giant king immediately realized what it meant to be driven to despair by pain. The miserable howls echoed across the battlefield, causing all the ancient giants to be restless. The soul giant king repeatedly cried out in terror, "Don't kill me. I don't want to die. I can be like evil crow venerable, defect to your human clan. I've cultivated desperately, I beg you." Jiang Fan grew even more furious, killing intent surging in his eyes. Did my sworn brother find cultivation easy? Was it easy for the fallen strong from Taikang state? Spare you. Neither I nor the fallen compatriots of the human clan can agree. Holding the divine wood, he switched it to purple thunder and fiercely struck towards the soul giant king's neck. The soul giant king screamed in despair. "Wang Chengxiao, the Black Sun King, won't spare you," Jiang Fan replied coldly. "You're wrong, it's me who won't spare him." You will be meeting each other soon enough. Slash, a massive head soared into the sky. The original star on top of the head was cleaved off as the purple thunder flew by. Jiang Fan grabbed it and launched soul attacks into it. With the dissipating, wretched screams, the last wisp of the soul giant king's remnant soul vanished from the world. The fourth giant king was completely obliterated. At this moment, a sound of something tearing through the air arose. Jiang Fan turned his head to see Evil Crow Venerable sneaking over to the 9-dragon demon tripod. Apparently, he had already released the soul-capturing lock. Seeing the battlefield take a drastic turn, he intended to flee with the 9-dragon demon tripod. Jiang Fan's eyes turned cold. Traitor, if it weren't for this damned fool, the soul giant king would have long been slain by him. He wouldn't have been besieged. The various sects' powerhouses wouldn't have had to sacrifice themselves to save him and relieve him of his predicament. This old scoundrel ought to be cut into 1,000 pieces. Evil Crow Venerable shuddered, regretting so much that his intestines turned green. Never in his wildest dreams did he think Jiang Fan would be able to turn the tables in a 4-against-1 certain-death situation. He had painstakingly made up his mind to betray Taikang State. In the end, Taikang State was going to win. Where could he find justice? If he had held on a bit longer and acted with Taikang State, he too could have become a savior, a hero whose name would be celebrated in history. Now he was left with the infamy of being a traitor to the human clan, and he would be hunted. This is all Jiang Fan's fault. If only he had died. Thinking this, he glared venomously at Jiang Fan. You ruined my lifelong reputation. I will never rest until you are destroyed. With these words, he hugged the 9-dragon demon tripod, attempting to escape with it. Upon grasping it, he realized that the tripod was particularly heavy. Only then did he understand that this tripod required other power to move it. Before he could figure it out, Jiang Fan's icy voice rolled in. You like to snatch my stuff, right? Go ahead and take it. With a thought, he injected a force of space power into the 9-dragon demon tripod. The tripod, when activated by soul power, was merely an ordinary pill furnace. However, if activated by space power, it would connect to the void. Crack! The lid of the tripod suddenly opened, and a terrifying, devouring force gushed out unexpectedly. Evil Crow Venerable, caught unprepared while holding the 9-dragon demon tripod, was swallowed on the spot. Evil Crow Venerable was horrified. Hurriedly, he activated the Evil Crow origin. The phantom of a pitch-black crow carried him as he struggled to fly outward. How could Jiang Fan grant him the opportunity? With a thought, the lid of the tripod swiftly closed. No! Evil Crow Venerable let out a cry of terror. There was nothing but void below. Once sealed inside, he was doomed. At the brink of death, he gritted his teeth, and the crow phantom beneath him shattered into fierce force, plugging the void passage beneath him. Simultaneously, the black divine ring at the back of his head shattered. He actually severed his domain, seeking a sliver of hope for life. Seizing the moment when the devouring force behind him vanished, he charged out of the tripod with a face full of gloom. At this moment, he hated Jiang Fan to the bone. His lifetime of divinity transformation cultivation was entirely gone. If he could escape alive, he would make Jiang Fan pay the price. However, just as he rushed out of the tripod, a black vine suddenly emerged from inside without any warning. It wrapped around him, dragging him back into the tripod. What is this? Ah, what is this? It's devouring my flesh. Jiang Fan, what did you put inside? Jiang Fan's expression changed. The black lotus of tribulation. It was actually attached to the bottom of the 9-dragon demon tripod and hadn't left all this time. Jiang Fan felt his scalp tingling, not daring to let this ferocious entity descend into Central Earth. He resolutely sealed the tripod. Just after sealing it, a dull, loud sound came. It was the black lotus of tribulation attacking the lid, trying to burst out. At the same time, the wretched screams of Evil Crow Venerable faintly echoed. Upon familiarization, the screams abruptly halted. He must have perished after being drained of blood and flesh by the black lotus of tribulation. Jiang Fan broke into a cold sweat on his forehead. Could the black lotus of tribulation also devour living beings' essence blood? Thinking of himself and Yue Mingzhu spending considerable time in the void with the black lotus of tribulation, he couldn't help but shudder in fear. Fortunately, their cultivation was low, and the black lotus of tribulation dismissed them. Otherwise, he shuddered, quickly inspecting the 9-dragon demon tripod, ensuring the lid was sealed, and only then cautiously placed it into a separate space storage device. If not absolutely necessary, it must not be opened again. Otherwise, releasing the Black Lotus of Tribulation would result in consequences as catastrophic as an apocalypse brought by the ancient giants. Having obliterated the Giant King, Jiang Fan surveyed the few remaining opponents. Heart Demon Venerable, Bodhisattva, and Jian Lanjiang, along with True Word Venerable, were all fighting with the Giant Kings, and there was no immediate danger. The now unoccupied Jiang Fan, there was no need to say what he intended to do. On the battlefield, Taoist leader! With a cry of alarm, Sanking Mountain Dao leader Xuanyi fell into a pool of blood. He had been pierced through the chest by the long tongue of an ancient giant, destroying his internal organs and losing more than half of his vitality. The elder beside him held him, tearfully feeding him healing pills. "Don't mind me," Xuanyi Master weakly whispered. "Continue to slay the enemies." He knew there was no saving him now. Looking at the fallen corpses of ancient giants alongside him, he remarked with satisfaction. For one person to kill 5 equals some of those self-exploding 9 aperture nascent soul seniors. Worth it. Remember to tell that little brat Jiang Fan that I am not inferior either. Did you hear? His vision blurred rapidly, faintly seeing an ancient giant waving a wolf fang club smashing down. He quietly closed his eyes, waiting for fate's judgment. But suddenly, a slab of scalding hot blood poured down, awakening him. In the blur, a black-clad young figure tread upon a tumbling severed head, approaching him, casually tossing a spirit pill onto him. "Killing only 5 doesn't make you a hero. Stand up and continue fighting." With that, the black figure soared into the air. Xuanyi Master groped to take the spirit pill, and his mortal wounds miraculously healed. His vision cleared as well, and he recognized the black figure, remaining in a daze for a long while. Then he stood up with a grin. "Little brat, I'll force you to look at me differently." He immediately charged back into the giants once more. At the same time, Jiang Fan's resounding voice came from the sky. "Soul Giant King, Shadow Giant King, and Evil Crow Venerable are dead. You cannot escape." These words greatly invigorated the Human Race Alliance army, while conversely throwing the ancient giants into panic. From the initial 400 ancient giants, over 200 had been reduced by the suicide attacks of the 9 aperture and atorifice nascent souls. The fearless army cut down another 100. How could the remaining 100 be a match for Jiang Fan and the Human Race Alliance army? Fear gripped them, leaving them unwilling to continue the battle, and they fled in all directions. The sect's bloodthirsty Human Race Alliance army wasn't going to let them go. They risked their lives to pursue and exterminate them. Jiang Fan also unleashed divine power treasures without cease. Every strike took a giant's life. In the short time of half a stick of incense, over 70 ancient giants fell. The remaining 20 couldn't escape either, only to be caught by the sect's enraged powerhouses. What awaited them was endless pursuit and extermination. They would be like the Usura clan in the heavenly realm, cut down one by one in fear. Jiang Fan took a deep breath, swallowing an anti-void spirit pill. The battlefield was settled. The task of mopping up the remnants fell to them now. Now it was time to send the remaining 4 giant kings on their way. Slaughtering them all, Taikang's state would claim victory. King with the semi-transparent star on his forehead was in utter disarray. He was simultaneously besieged by the heavenly listening Bodhisattva and the battle corpse. In addition, the Sand Giant King was also attacking him. Just now, the heavenly listening Bodhisattva had launched a strange, second vow, forcibly converting the Sand Giant King into Buddhism. At this moment, the Sand Giant King's body was radiating Buddha light, with a compassionate and peaceful eye vertically. The essence in his forehead kept rotating, mobilizing the sand to assist in battle. He didn't seem to hear the urgent cries of his former friends. It was so reminiscent of the Sky Demon Emperor of back then. The difference was, the Sky Demon Emperor was in the nascent soul realm, while the Sand Giant King was in the divinity transformation realm. The battle corpse suddenly struck. The black battle knife in its hand cleaved out a terrifying edge that made even those in the divinity transformation realm shudder. The Giant King with the semi-transparent forehead couldn't evade, and a small half of his body was cleaved apart, blood spilling on the spot. He let out a painful roar, using the semi-transparent star on his forehead in shock and anger. In the next moment, he transformed into loathing, merging into the atmosphere, leaving no trace. Jian Lanjiang's gaze tightened, hurriedly leaning near the Bodhisattva and cautiously asked, "Can the Bodhisattva see him?" The heavenly listening Bodhisattva's ears moved slightly, shaking his head. He is the invisibility giant king, capable of shielding the senses of those in the same realm, hiding within the formless. Jiang Lanjiang secretly frowned. This domain is very tricky. Fortunately, the Bodhisattva acted decisively at any cost to initiate the second vow, converting the Sand Giant King. Otherwise, with one in the open and one in the dark, it would be hard to say for the Bodhisattva he should have been dead long ago. Now it's equally troublesome. If he escapes, it will be like a ferocious tiger out of the cage, leaving destruction in its wake. And as the other party possesses the invisibility essence, trying to hunt him down is like fishing for a needle in the ocean, not to mention he could suddenly emerge anytime, biting a divinity transformation realm individual. Comparable to a venomous snake, his menace is greater than the other giant kings, while being anxious. A voice suddenly echoed in their ears without warning, "Prepare to act." Jiang Lanjiang's heart almost leapt out of his chest, realizing there was someone behind them. Upon recognizing it was Jiang Fan's voice, he slightly relaxed. Half amused, half annoyed, he said, "Didn't die at a giant's hands, almost got scared to death by you." This kind of brutal battlefield, having someone suddenly appearing beside him, was really terrifying. Even the Bodhisattva's body shook slightly, secretly noting, "The giant family's no-self-dust cleansing technique is indeed extraordinary." Jiang Fan didn't explain further, taking out the void fishing rod. He meditated on the appearance of the invisibility giant king, then cast the rod. The golden hook with its long fishing line circled halfway, heading toward their side. It entered the void, appearing in the space 1,000 feet away in the next moment, seemingly hooking onto something, hovering in the air. "There it is," Jiang Fan shouted low, initiating an attack himself. The three-colored divine rainbow swiftly pierced through. The Bodhisattva pressed his 5 fingers, sending a massive golden lotus flying and pressing down fiercely. Jiang Lanjiang, on the other hand, controlled the battle corpse to deliver another devastating strike. At the same time, the Sand Giant King also initiated the essence, manipulating the sand near the hook to form a storm, sealing the surroundings, only to see a certain part of the storm explode as something invisible attempted to break through and was intercepted. Seizing this opportunity, the three-colored divine rainbow, golden lotus, and black blade attacked together. Puff! "Ah! You!" Puff, the invisibility giant king, was first cut in half by the black blade. And just as he let out a miserable cry, the three-colored divine rainbow decapitated him. Finally, the golden lotus slammed down, crushing his head along with his body. Even the star, accompanied by the scream of the remnant soul hidden within, turned to ashes. The 4 worked together to slay the giant king effortlessly. Jiang Fan immediately turned his gaze to the battle between Heart Demon Venerable and the Stone Giant King. The two were locked in a stalemate. Heart Demon Venerable felt embarrassed, as giant kings were being killed on other battlefields, yet he was still tangled with the Stone Giant King. "Don't mind me, I want to kill him with my own hands." Since he didn't seem to be at a disadvantage, Jiang Fan naturally shifted his focus to the biggest threat, the Luck Giant King. To his slight surprise, both the recently promoted Heavenly Human Second Decline True Words and Luck Giant King. After exchanging blows, True Words actually had the upper hand. Every time the Luck Giant King tried to wield his essence, his thoughts were forcibly interrupted by the domain of True Word Venerable. As a result, the Luck Giant King occasionally appeared sluggish, his movements sometimes stiff. And True Words used the Phoenix Feather 9 Flames fan to inflict some damage on the Luck Giant King in the meantime. The Luck Giant King's eyes were filled with anger, evidently feeling extremely stifled in the fight. However, the Luck Giant King was not seriously injured. True Words found it equally difficult to secure victory. Jiang Fan said no more, swiftly rushing over. The Bodhisattva with the Sand Giant King teleported to the battlefield, directly launching Buddha Light. Having previously fought with the arbitrarily shrinking and enlarging 2-star Giant King, the Bodhisattva struck with forceful ferocity. A towering golden Buddha phantom overwhelmingly pressed down. Jiang Fan, too, followed closely, swallowing an anti-void spirit pill, driving the 3-colored divine rainbow to attack. Jiang Lanjiang was not lagging behind, commanding the battle corpse to unleash a world-ending slash. The Sand Giant King, without sparing his essence, conjured a 100-foot Sandman to assault. Confronted with the sudden attack of 4 divinity transformation strikes, the Luck Giant King was taken aback. With a sweep of his divine thought, he was shocked to find on the vast battlefield, only he and the Stone Giant King remained standing. The invisibility giant king, soul giant king, evil crow venerable, all dead. The last 400 ancient giants of the Black Sun royal court were reduced to a mere dozen, being hunted down. The mighty Black Sun royal court army had almost been completely wiped out. How could it be like this? Before arriving, they had envisioned easily annihilating Taikang, supporting other tribes, and ruling Central Earth with grand rhetoric echoing vividly in their minds. But in the blink of an eye, it was just him and the stone giant king left. The others either dead in battle or captured. He didn't understand why it ended this way. What went wrong? Were the giants inexperienced, or did they fear battle, unwilling to sacrifice? Or were they as giant kings overconfident, careless? None of it. In this battle, whether giant kings or ancient giants, they were fighting desperately. Yet in the end, it was a total defeat with an overwhelming loss. He was unwilling. Feeling the 4 incoming divinity transformation strikes, he gritted his sharp teeth, revolving the essence on his forehead. Bad luck, calamity, misfortune. With his 2-star giant king realm unleashing 3 lucks again, the lethality was astounding. But with the true word venerable present, how could he be given a chance? Prohibited true words. The thought of the luck giant king was disrupted, his essence stopped rotating, and even his body appeared stiff. The 4 divinity transformation strikes successively landed on him. Puff, puff, boom. The 3-colored divine rainbow slashed at his neck, slicing into his spine, as the luck giant king promptly regained the ability to move. He roared in pain, tilting his head, using the muscles in his neck and shoulders to clench the divine rainbow, preventing his head from being severed. Immediately after, his body twisted nimbly. The black blade, which would have cut him in half, grazed his waist and abdomen, only opening a massive gash, intestines spilling out. Then punched 2 punches in succession, scattering the Buddha phantom and the giant formed of sand. Jiang Fan's expression turned solemn. To think it is a 2-star giant king and still it doesn't kill him. Betrays, but it was just a matter of time. 5 against 1, especially with a heavenly human 2 declines ally, they could exhaust him to death. The luck giant king, severely injured, was thoroughly enraged. He shouted angrily, "You ants, come here and give your lives to this king." Bang! With force from both legs, he leaped away instantly as if teleporting. The true word venerable urgently warned, "Be careful." A dying retaliation from a 2-star giant king is deadly to any divinity transformation realm fighter. Jiang Fan also grew tense, secretly activating the black dragon armor. But soon, relying on the wind origin, he sensed something was off. The trajectory of the luck giant king wasn't aimed at the 5 of them. Rather, Jiang Fan followed his trajectory and his face changed drastically. He shouted urgently, "Heart Demon Venerable, run!" The luck giant king was headed straight for the Heart Demon Venerable. This was unexpected for everyone. The Heart Demon Venerable also sensed the powerful intent to kill. Where would he dare to linger in battle? He abandoned the Stone Giant King and teleported away. The Stone Giant King swung his fist, wanting to take a hit at the Heart Demon Venerable. Just this one hit could intercept him. Once the Luck Giant King arrived, he could instantly kill him. Yet, for some reason, the Stone Giant King didn't throw the punch. At the same time, a strong chi force erupted beside him, and the Luck Giant King flashed and arrived. He glanced at the Heart Demon Venerable regretfully. Then, without a word, he grabbed the Stone Giant King and flashed toward the Forbidden Land. Indeed, he was planning to escape back to the Heavenly Realm. The situation was lost. Only by returning and preserving strength could a new plan be made. Everyone realized the Luck Giant King's intention, and their faces turned grim. Trying to escape. The true word Venerable, carrying Jiang Fan and Jian Lanjiang, and the Bodhisattva with the Sand Giant King, teleported to the front of the Forbidden Land. At this time, the Luck Giant King had already brought the Stone Giant King back to the connecting sky-black pillar deep in the Forbidden Land. Looking at the pursuing Strong from Taikang State, the Luck Giant King showed fear. He glanced at the Stone Giant King and said deeply, "Cover me. I will ascend first, then cover your retreat remotely." The Stone Giant King completely followed the order, bowing. "Yes, my lord." The Luck Giant King nodded. The hierarchy among giants was strict. The 2-star Giant King had absolute authority over the 1-star Giant King, just as a 1-star Giant King had over ordinary ancient giants. He confidently leaped towards the connecting sky-black pillar. But just as he leaped, the Stone Giant King straightened, a fierce look in his eyes. With a spinning star-like source in his forehead, he fiercely punched the Luck Giant King in the back. Under the support of the invincible petrification origin, the fist fiercely penetrated the Luck Giant King's body. Wincing, the Luck Giant King stumbled and fell. His whole body shook violently, the terrifying tremor shattering the Stone Giant King's arm into pieces, also sending him flying, smashing into the ruins of the ancient city. The Luck Giant King, unbelieving with a sinister, chaotic eye, screamed, "You dare betray me!" Cough, 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 the Stone Giant King climbed from the ruins, clutching his broken arm, eyes revealing a cold smile. "What's surprised? The one who stabs you at the end would be your longtime partner." The Luck Giant King shouted sinisterly, "Why? Do you think I treated you as a discard, purposely seeking revenge?" The Stone Giant King shook his head, pointing to his head, said, "I hated you all for turning me into a giant king." Hiss, the Luck Giant King's chaotic eye trembled, surprised. You regained your memory." "Impossible. Once you're transformed into a giant king, all your past memories are erased by negative emotions." "Wait, you and Green Pearl are both from the Forgotten God Shura lineage. Your lineage is proficient in the talent of removing people's memories." When he said this, he fully understood. For other Asura clan members, once transformed, they permanently lose memory. Only the Forgotten God Shura lineage might be an exception. Their talent is strong enough to resist negative emotions erasing their memories. And because of this, the Stone Giant King bore a grudge against them, always waiting for the chance to take revenge. Thinking of this, the Luck Giant King was furious, ungrateful traitor. "Just wait until we have time to destroy your entire Forgotten God Asura clan. Let me tell you, the Giant Emperor has already decided to utterly destroy all life other than giants in the heavenly realm, and I will be part of it." This was a secret the Black Sun King told him quietly after he advanced to 2-star Giant King. This time, it's not only the plan to annihilate Central Earth, but to cleanse the heavenly realm. Finally, to destroy the Hell Realm, to completely end the 10,000-year war. Because the plan they've plotted for millennia is about to be achieved. The Stone Giant King, with a serious face, then laughed coldly. "Whether the Forgotten God Asura clan is destroyed or not remains uncertain. But my lord, you probably won't live to see that day." The Luck Giant King's face slightly changed. What does this mean? Does the Stone Giant King have some hidden move to restrain him? Suddenly, a wave of intense pain surged through the Luck Giant King's body. He sensed something was wrong, pulling out the Stone Giant King's inserted hand from his body. From the cracked fist, strands of black poison slowly flowed out. The Luck Giant King's palm trembled, horrified, shadow black snake's poison. The punch the Stone Giant King landed inside him earlier, the physical damage was secondary. The real purpose was to inject the poison into his body. The wound rapidly turned black, oozing clumps of decayed black sludge. It was his internal organs melting from the poison. Next, his chaotic eye also rotted away, liquefying and rolling down. His ears, mouth, and nose sequentially spouted large amounts of decayed sludge. His whole body rotted rapidly from the inside out. The Luck Giant King, filled with hatred, opened his big mouth, letting out a distorted roar full of resentment. "Traitor, Tor!" He staggered toward the Stone Giant King's direction. But as soon as he lifted a leg, the other rotting giant foot couldn't support the massive body. With a crash, he fell to the ground. The rotten body instantly shattered into 7 or 8 lumps. A gigantic head with a horrifying expression rolled to the Stone Giant King's feet. The 2 dark hollow eyes were fixed furiously on the Stone Giant King. Soon, the head melted as well. Finally, only 2 colorful stars remained. The Stone Giant King leisurely picked up the 2 stars, looking at the fully melted corpse. He said lightly, "This is your price for transforming me." Then he glanced sideways at Jiang Fan and the others outside the Forbidden Land. He smirked, hands clasped behind his back, slowly walking to the edge of the Forbidden Land, facing them directly. "Isn't it surprising?" The true word venerable, the Bodhisattva, and the heart demon venerable stood there in astonishment. Who would have thought the Stone Giant King was a traitor within the Black Sun royal court, and had been waiting patiently until today? In the end, successfully poisoning a 2-star Giant King to death.